Well, you're at 12, so this would be the.
He said I can.
I forgot, do you sign these as clerk or does,
Perks striking again. My computer only lasted 30 minutes. Plug it in. I mean, you could replace that machine. Just go and see with that computer. I don't think it comes with an extremely high price tag. So I think even the
I might have to do these later.
clean me up. But they're a long time leader. Work that into your work it into your performance appraisal. Did you give it to the intern? They offered it to you and you said no?
She gave me copies of the comments that were submitted. I don't have to read those into the.
Yes. Don't be one of those
Well, I might
people.
show up here for that, a Mac and be like,
You have to be open to change. And I'm actually there. I mean, you have an actual take that. It's so much better than your Dell laptop. You understand it's like probably like what, five times the price. Take it.
I don't know how we had a spare Mac.
My next meeting, you're not on the Mac.
I'm gonna come from this.
Okay, you guys ready to go, or you might as well get, everybody, you guys ready? No, you ready?
No.
Shumper?
Well, I'm the first up in our group.
Okay, we're gonna get started with the committee of the whole meeting now. Good evening, it's 7:13 PM on Monday, January 12th, 2026. I'd like to call to order the Village of Brookfield Committee of the Whole meeting. Noah, can we have a roll call for the committee meeting?
Trustee Ketchmark?
Here.
Trustee Whitehead?
Here.
Trustee Hendricks?
Here.
Trustee Naramatsu?
Here.
Trustee Gahuli?
Here.
Trustee Kalusny?
Here.
President Garvey?
Here.
And Noah Rife, serving as Deputy Village Clerk.
Thank you. Thank you for coming, everyone. The first item is a discussion for a request for a special use permit from Section 62.25 to allow a cannabis dispensary at 9046 31st Street. This was a case that was in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission with a recommendation forwarded to us. My intention with the board, if this is, and I'll just look for concurrence of the board, we do have a very detailed staff memo, and the board has received the previous staff memo as well as Plan Commission, and there's written correspondence that we've all received, and I know the board has reviewed that. I'm going to start off by asking staff, specifically Libby, maybe to present the initial information on this. I will give the applicant a chance if they want to make any presentation. They're not required to make any additional presentation. And then if the board has any specific questions at that point, but if not, I thought maybe we would open it up to public comment on the specific topic at that point, allow public comment, and then let the board discuss if there's any additional discussion they want to have. Is that, typically we've done that on some items like this. And for the members of the public that are here, I will give everyone a chance to talk during public comment. I will ask you to come up to the microphone to state your name and address. I was informed earlier, and I guess I wasn't completely aware of this, that there is supposedly I can impose a 3-minute time limit on comments. I've never done that before. I don't intend to do that here. I'd like to give everybody a chance to talk. I just ask everyone to direct their comments directly to the village board. I also ask that you respect everyone else when they're speaking. Please do not, the board does not really put any weight on applause, who gets the most applause or who gets the most jeers or anything like that. I just ask you to respect your neighbors and the board. And the other thing that I ask is that you don't make comments from the seat while someone else is speaking. The acoustics in this room are very bad. We can hear everything. We're going to give you your attention when you come up to the podium. I ask that you not be speaking in the audience while someone else is speaking, and we'll be open to public comment and presentation and take everyone's input. So I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to our Economic Development Coordinator, Libby Popovic, to make the initial presentation.
Thank you, President Garvey. This is case number 25-18, and it's the request for a special use permit to allow a cannabis dispensary at 9046 31st Street. This is a proposed cannabis dispensary site to the left of a vacant commercial space on the right. There are 3 dwelling units on the second floor, 6 on-street parking spaces to the left on Park Avenue, and there are 11 parking spots in the back of the building. There is also a 12-car public parking lot that is directly across from Park Avenue to the west of the building. So some background information. This is a C4 local retail district. The site is approximately 9,500 square feet. It is improved with a 2-story mixed-use building, and it's been constructed in 1960. The ground floor has approximately 4,400 square feet of commercial space, and then there are 3 residential units that occupy the second floor. Just as a review for the standards of review for a special use permit, and that's under section 62.821E. 1, the compatibility with the intent and purpose of the property's zoning district, which in this case is C4 local retail district. 2, compatibility with the existing uses on the site and in the vicinity. And 3, special actions that are contemplated to modify any unique, special, or unusual impacts which the special use may cause or intensify upon properties or uses upon public facilities or neighboring properties. So just a recap of the standards of review that were used that the Planning and Zoning Commission considered. Here you can see the subject site with the surrounding properties. There's the commercial corridor in the C4, and it is also surrounded by some single-family residents as well. Here you can see where the public parking is in location to the proposed site at 9046. And then we have an interior of the main interior space of the building as it exists currently. The petitioner has also submitted a proposed floor plan, and the petitioner does have a separate presentation, and they can answer any questions asked to the proposed floor plan. We have proposed interior images of what the dispensary site would look like, and these are just a few of the renderings that were submitted to staff. We have the financial implications, which is a projected 5% of sales tax to Brookfield. So in 2026, approximately $79,000 of a projected total sales of $1.5 million, 2027, $190,000, and $209,000 in 2028, with projected total sales of $4.1 million, and these are just projections. PZC did review it. They did also hear comments both opposing the dispensary and those in favor of it. And the PZC did recommend it in favor of it with certain conditions, and there are 6 conditions that were imposed. 1 is that the cannabis dispensary shall be Monday through Saturday 9 to 9 p.m. and Sunday 10 to 6 p.m. 2, special use permit is granted specific to prolific dispensary, and any changes in the ownership would require a separate amendment to the special use permit. 3, that the special use permit has to be exercised within 6 months after the effective date of the ordinance granting such a special use permit. 4, upon written request, after the six-month life of the special use, the petitioner or applicant can come to the board and request by a simple majority an extension of an additional 6 months, but there can be no more than 2 such extensions that would be granted by the board. 5, that should the special use be discontinued for 6 months, 6 consecutive months, as in no work has been done or nothing has been done to the property, it'll be considered abandoned, and the special use is not then reestablished automatically or resumed without applying again. And then 6 is that rear parking lot has to be resealed and striped. And with that, I will open it up to questions either for staff or we have 2 presentations. 1 is the petitioner and 1 is the commercial leasing agent of the site.
Does the board have any questions of staff at this point in time, or do you want to hear the two presentations?
One quick question, the property only includes the west portion of the downstairs, correct? Not the east portion that's vacant, that additional?
It would include both.
So it is both?
Yeah, it is both.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions for Libby at this point in time? Okay, I'll turn it over. Dave, you want to go first? If you could, we all know you, but if you want to state your name for the record and make your presentation.
Good evening, happy Monday, and Happy New Year to you all. David King, president of David King and Associates, headquartered at 1011 Lake Street. And finally, I call it the Land of Oz, also known as the Village of Oak Park. We're a boutique, 5-person commercial real estate firm. We specialize in the sale, leasing, management, development of office, retail, medical, and restaurant space. My firm is 32 years old. I've personally been doing this 42 years now. We work throughout the northern half of the state. Last year, we successfully wrapped up deals in both Springfield and Champaign, Illinois. About half our business is corporate, which takes us throughout the northern half of the state, and then the other half is entrepreneurial real estate, which is what we're talking about here tonight. And quite candidly, the majority of our entrepreneurial real estate is within the confines of WCMC. Pretty similar. On a corporate level, we represent H&R Block for, I think, 23, 24 years. Edward Jones, the financial service company, 22 years. And I've been running with both Rush Oak Park Hospital and Rush University Medical Center, not as their exclusive guy, but their main real estate guy for north of 20 years. Little tidbit about H&R Block, because we're now 23 years with them. We have a rider that we put on every lease, going back the day we started with them. On uses, if those uses are not in that shopping center, they can't put them in later on if we go there. For instance, if there's a bar in the shopping center, we're not going there. Well north of 50% of our customers at HR Block are women. We don't need a bunch of guys hanging out in front of a bar whistling at girls going into HR Block. So we have some uses that if they're in that shopping center, they're probably we're not going. And if they're not in there, they're going to be on a protected list where if we sign a lease, you cannot add them later on. When medical marijuana came out in 2008, dispensaries were added to that list of HR Block stores that we're not going to the shopping center with a dispensary, and if you sign a lease with HR Block, you cannot now rent to a dispensary. Probably 10 years ago, they took that restriction off the list because what they realized, there was no issues with having a dispensary in those type of properties. The same thing happened 10, 12 years ago when video poker came out. A lot of the national and regional retailers, they just, I don't know. So the bigger landlords would not rent to the video poker, realizing they might have a problem with their national and regional folks coming in. But after a few years, no worries, move on to video poker. So our assignment is obviously 9046 West 31st Street. Very sophisticated owners. They own about a dozen of these buildings. We represent a half a dozen of them in Oak Park. They own an entire block. We also have a building working with them in Lyons. So the first floor is 4,500 feet, if you get that floor plan, Louis. So the dispensary, we've inked the lease for the west portion, which is 2,900 feet. The east portion is still available. The west portion, 2,900 feet, has been vacant since 2019. The east portion since 2020. I'm not going to rent the east portion of 1,600 feet first, because I guarantee you, at least my world, the moment I would do that, somebody come along and want the whole building. So we're concentrating on the bigger space first. Upon taking any assignment, doesn't matter what town it is, the first thing we do is we try to get a quick powwow with the municipality. What are the zoning? What would you like? What don't you not like? No disrespect, but I prefer not to be here. I prefer not to have to go in front of a zoning board. I'd rather do projects as a matter of right. So we always want to try to be on the same page with the municipality. Obviously, we install signage. We're on a dozen plus commercial websites. We've got our own. We blast emails. We solicit. A lot of commercial state firms that tell you how they're going to go out and solicit folks. We actually do it. So some of the uses that we did go after, which are permitted under C4, All the medical is allowed, physical therapy. We do a lot of medical. Our company, we work with Athletico and ATI and Rush and Midwest Orthopedics. Athletico, pre-COVID, I think it was 18, we did a deal in Burlington and downtown Riverside. That Athletico is still there today. No interest in the PT clinics as of now. Medical, for good or bad, I made a wrong turn many years ago on hospital real estate. I've done well north of 100 hospital facilities off campus in my career. Harlem and Cermak, that Loyola facility, I always call it Rizza Ford. I will always call it Rizza Ford. We did that deal in 97. They're still open and operating. On LaGrange Road and LaGrange Park, behind now what is the Aldi, we built that building in 98, if I remember. It's now Pillars Health. Loyola was in there for about 15, 17 years. Again, within our playground, WCMC. Dental, in 21, I sold a building on Broadway, a couple doors from the fire station, for independent oral surgeon. I've probably done 20 or 25 of these. So we worked real hard on the medical, which is allowed under the zoning, so I didn't have to be here, but with no success. Restaurants are allowed under C4. The big challenge when you're taking a retail space that is not a former restaurant and converting to a restaurant, that 2,900 feet, you're talking anywhere between $600,000 and $700,000 to make it a restaurant. The cost is insane. We did have one interested user that we spent 3 or 4 months with. Ultimately, I think he was really looking to do pizza and burgers, but what he really wanted was the video gaming. He wanted a big outdoor patio, which I'm guessing the neighbors probably would have not been real excited about an outdoor patio in the rear parking lot. But again, the cost was too expensive. He walked away. Fitness. That's legal under C4. It's got 13-foot ceilings. It's column-free. It works really good for fitness in terms of equipment because you're not working around columns. We had a couple of independent personal trainers. We had a boxing gym. Recently, I had an MMA, mixed martial arts, you see on TV, was interested. But in a perfect world, I'd like to see retail. You'd like to see retail. But the reality is, obviously, the Nationals are not going on 31st Street. No disrespect, the Nationals are not coming to my hometown of Forest Park and going on Madison Street. You know, they're going to Harlem Lake. You know, it's the herd mentality. They all want to be next to each other. It's just how it works. So we're talking about the independents. You know, the reality is every single day this country is losing independent retailers. You can't compete against Amazon, against Walmart. Everyone talks about wanting to shop local, but at the end of the day, they shop their pocketbook. So when we lose an independent retailer and you backfill it with a new tenant, it's going to be fitness, it's going to be food, or it's going to be medical. Usually that's what happens, backfilling these retail spaces. As of today, unable to find any independent retailers. I did want to point out real quick, at the zoning meeting 3 weeks ago, whenever it was, I heard a couple folks talk about housing values will go down if a dispensary is put in this location. I would respectfully disagree, and I think I can authoritatively tell you that what will make a neighborhood go down is vacant, blighted building. This building is vacant 5, if not 6 years on the ground floor. In 2025, we had 2 separate instances. I believe police reports were filed both times where I'm guessing they were juveniles, shot BB guns and blew out the windows. And we had boarded up windows. That is what's going to deteriorate a neighborhood more so than a dispensary, respectfully. So after 2 years of aggressive marketing, and I will tell you, we aggressively marketed. Again, this is a bigger client of ours. We've been unsuccessful. I received a call from Ms. Libby, I don't know, 6 weeks ago, something like that, that she had a lead for a dispensary. And honestly, it's a use that I hadn't thought about, just hadn't thought about it. I've only done one other dispensary in my hometown in Forest Park on Madison Street. So little experience, not a whole lot of experience, but enough to at least, well, more experience than I had when I did the first one. So we looked at the space, negotiated a letter of intent, which has got all the terms. Here's the rent, when's it start, who pays for what. That has all been negotiated. But then because they're not buying the building, they're just gonna rent the space. So now it's my job, in addition to negotiate the terms of the deal, is to vet the prospective tenant. That's great. I sign a lease, but if they can't honor the terms of the lease, it's meaningless, okay? So first thing is, okay, show me your license. Show me you got a license. 4 years ago, I was running around with people who told me they had license. I wasn't smart enough to know whether they had it, and ended up wasting my time with a few folks. Financial wherewithal. I saw tax returns. I saw bank statements, 401ks, a whole slew of financials. I can tell you that authoritatively, they have $1.2 million to open this store. I believe they have the expertise and ability to perform, but we're going to have someone talk a little bit more about that. I would suggest that dispensary is just a new retail use. It's one of today's modern retail uses. It's a use that many of your municipal neighbors have been hoping to attract for many years. Thank you for your time and consideration. It's now my pleasure to introduce you to Tanya Griffin of Water and
President
Trees.
Garvey?
Thanks. Yeah,
President Garvey?
yeah, Dave, could you hold on a second? Do you have questions of
Yeah.
Dave?
Yeah, three.
Could you,
Couple quick
Trustee
questions.
Kettering, some questions of you, Dave.
So what we're talking about now is just the west section?
Yes, sir.
Not the east section?
That's correct.
Okay. You commented, and I'm not sure when you referred to your client before, if you were talking about the owner of the building or your client for the dispensary. You mentioned they have 12 of these buildings and you're working on another one in Lyons.
Owner of the building, I apologize.
The owner of the building, okay.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great. That was it. Thanks.
Any other questions for Dave while he's up here?
No, thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave. Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, thanks, Libby.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. My name is Tanya Griffin, and I am representing Water and Trees, which is my company, and the Laws family, who are the social equity applicants that hold a conditional use cannabis license in Illinois. I want to let everyone know that that is a big lift. I know you've had an eyesore at Prairie and Ogden that hasn't opened, so you did approve the use of the cannabis dispensary. I think it was in 2019, and are waiting for that dispensary. I'm going to explain to you why we're going to get your dispensary open if you allow us, and what that will be like. I raised my kids in LaGrange and in Western Springs, so in this room it's filled with Griffins and Bakers and O'Malleys, my grandchildren. Baker and Penny live on Elm, very close to the other dispensary that was proposed on Ogden Avenue. I first knocked on your door, I think it was 2013, when we were going after medical licenses. You guys were not ready yet. I did end up opening those dispensaries, 2 near my hometown in Belleville, Illinois, which was by St. Louis, Missouri, and 2 very close to the ISU campus in Normal, Illinois. Those dispensaries did $80 million in annual sales at their peak. I sold them and have gone on to build multiple dispensaries in the state of Illinois. Snap Can is one, so if you're driving down Highway 55, I put this dispensary in a Shell station. What we do at Water and Trees is we build these dispensaries soup to nuts, and we carry on and operate them alongside the social equity applicant. Our specialty is building neighborhood dispensaries. So we look at the community. In this case, this is my community. This is where I raised my children. So any dispensary we build is built with absolutely that in mind. So this is the Laws family. They wrote this application. Their mom, Judge Marjorie Laws, has passed away. But William Sr. is a defense attorney, and Amber and William are here with us tonight. This is a locally owned and operated dispensary. That is very different from some of the dispensaries you may or may not have gone into, including the one on Ogden. So the multi-state operators are going to be a very different feel in how we address the community, react to the community, and purchase for the community. Okay, so this is the building that we're proposing. It's not on Ogden. It is on 31st Street. When we had our last meeting together, most of the issues that came up were obviously not around bringing a cannabis dispensary to Brookfield. That was approved in 2019. A lot of the resistance came really from the fact that that this is backed up to a neighborhood that was more resistant to it, and I want to go over every one of those questions and explain to you how safe this is going to be and why we make it safe and why it's traditional retail and all. So this is Prolific Dispensary. Marjorie, Mom, her name stands for Pearl. So the color palette that we've chosen is greens, it's pearl, it has a large greenery wall in the reception. I want to tell you guys a little bit about what it means to walk into a dispensary and how it is, as David said, just really traditional retail. One of the big things about dispensaries, they are highly, highly regulated. When you come into a dispensary, you are ID'd. You may not bring any children into the dispensary. There are no pot leaves. The signage outside only says Prolific Dispensary. If you can read it, yes, you know there's a dispensary. But otherwise, you would have no sense that there is cannabis around. There is no smell. By law, through the IDFPR, we are highly regulated. All products, all cannabis products, no matter what they are, must be in child-resistant packaging. There is no flour available. All of it comes in prepackaged. Everything is secure. We are mandated to have a security guard. In this case, we would suggest we would choose an unarmed security guard, but there is a security guard at any time there is a human in the building. They are instructed all of the time to survey inside and outside the building. Every inch inside and out of this dispensary is under 24/7 video surveillance. We hold that video for 90 days. We are directly in communication with the Illinois State Police, who inspect us every single month. We're also inspected quarterly from the IDFPR. If there is any infraction, what that means, if a single pre-roll is lost in inventory, things literally shut down. We must report to the IDFPR. Everyone is notified, so I want everyone to understand that not only is this what a dispensary looks like, if there is any packaging on the floor, cannabis packaging on the floor, it is empty and it is for show only. So if you see a little package of a Wana gummy, there's no gummies inside. The way that we have built this dispensary is different than some of the other dispensaries that we've built across the country. I believe that in Brookfield, we need a community-based dispensary. So we're going to rely heavily on our sales associates, on Amber and William, and we will be hiring from the community. Education is a key cornerstone of what we're doing at Prolific. So some of the dispensaries you may or may not have gone into, you will see big glaring TVs, you'll see iPads and kiosks where you're forced to order. It's very different from what we're gonna do. Yes, you will be able to order online. We have a robust tech stack. Over 65% of our orders will be coming in online. On average, people spend between 6 to 8 minutes, maybe, picking up their product. For those who want to stay in shop, we are available to do that, but that is not the norm in the cannabis industry. It tends to be very high turnover, and the orders are placed online ahead of time. I'm gonna go quick because everybody is tired, but I wanna explain what is going on in cannabis. A big deal in our industry is that cannabis has been a Schedule I drug. That means it sits there with fentanyl and heroin, drugs that kill. Very recently, last month, an executive order was placed to move cannabis from Schedule I to Schedule III. What this has done is it's removed an onerous tax code, 280E, that says businesses, retail businesses, can have no standard deductions. As importantly, what it has done, it has opened up research. So currently, we've got last year 53,000 studies, cannabis studies for medical purposes registered with the NIH. We're expecting that to go through the roof. What we understand about cannabis is that the biggest growing population is 100% seniors. They're treating pain, anxiety, sleep. We see nationwide, Medicare Part D has dropped $470 million in states that use it. And this is a very, very simple Google search, but teen use in cannabis in states that have legalized has absolutely dropped. There is just zero question about what has happened with teen use relative to cannabis. I mentioned some of my family members in this room. Yes, they are Irish. That means alcohol has ripped through my family tree. I can tell you that cannabis is the least addictive substance that you can name for me right now. Sugar's above it. And it does not kill. So that is something that we need to consider. Like David said, it is what retail will become. It's hard to keep the doors open if you're a small mom and pop retailer. I was one for 30 years, and I can tell you that's true. You have invited cannabis to your town, and I'm gonna tell you how we're gonna make that corner safe and welcoming for all. So as Libby said, 5% of our revenue goes right back to Brookfield. Now, that's maybe not a huge thing to the community, but it does help, you know, the events that you do on the weekends. We came to the music events. I brought my kids here all weekends during the summer, seeing the Beatles. They weren't the Beatles, but you guys all know who I'm talking about. So indeed, this is going to be a neighborhood dispensary. We are gonna have a robust tech stack, which means that we're rewarding the community and not only Brookfield. Remember, I know this raised some feathers 3 weeks ago when we discussed it, but LaGrange Park, LaGrange, Hinsdale, Western Springs, none of those communities have chosen to have a dispensary yet. Right now, they're going to Hodgkins, and they're going to Riverside, and they're going to Broadview. They do want to come and shop in this community, which means they're going to the restaurants, they're going to the fellow retail communities, and it is valuable, I would hope, to attract those neighbors to this community. I'm gonna wrap quick here. All right, so we are a neighborhood dispensary. I'm not gonna run through these, obviously, because a lot of this I talked about. What this is basically talking about is good luck robbing a dispensary. I mean, there is no more secure retail space than a dispensary. We have a vault inside the premise. Every inch inside is out is under video surveillance. Again, there is no cannabis smell. There is absolutely no consumption. Not only is there no consumption in the dispensary, but we would not allow consumption anywhere around the dispensary. And we have a security guard that would monitor that, absolutely. All right, I'm gonna tell you one more thing, because this came in through the questions that were asked to me. How is this cannabis moving into the dispensary, and what's going on with cash? Well, that has also changed. Dispensaries are no longer all cash. We run typical to a normal retail establishment. We see probably around 60–65% of transactions using a debit card. There is an ATM inside the dispensary, so there is some cash. Everything that is moved regarding cash or cannabis is under strict surveillance. It is under and has a security card. So where cannabis will come to 9046 is in the rear access of the building under video surveillance. It is done quickly, I can tell you, because we do it at many of our dispensaries. Yes, This is the one you can bring your mother-in-law to. I'm going to let you guys ask questions because I know this is such a long night. If anyone has anybody, otherwise I am going to sit down.
No, thank you, and you don't have to rush.
Oh, are you sure?
No,
Okay.
no,
Late.
the board, we're here to listen and to hear from you, so I appreciate you making your
Doing the
presentation, but
speed?
but we're not asking you to rush if there's anything, and I appreciate you being available. Does the board members have questions of the representative of the applicant at this point?
Couple questions. You had up there 9045 31st. We're talking about 9046.
We are. I
Correct.
apologize. Yeah,
Okay.
so it's that 2,900 square feet that runs along Park Avenue.
Okay. And currently you have the initial conditional license?
So the Loss family applied and won out of merit a conditional use license. The process is we will, if you grant us zoning, we will then immediately go forth with the IDFPR, submit a 1536 form. Joe and I and our entire team at Water and Trees have a very good track record of getting things open very quickly. I will tell you that our proposed general contractor lives, Ryan, 2 blocks behind the building. So we will be, certainly looking to local contractors. Our general contractor is your neighbor, right beside Park. And we intend to have this open as quickly as possible. If we would pull permits directly, and architect is in place, and we are ready to go.
And this is for an adult use, recreational use, not a medical use?
That's correct. The distinction there is that currently, even though it was in the House Bill 1558, we do serve medical patients, and we do give discounts to medical patients, that is for sure. But as it stands, the law reads that we are adult use. We believe that's going to change.
So you showed a picture up there
Yes.
of a dispensary in a Shell gas station.
Yes,
This is quite different than that.
this is.
The location is quite different than that. Have you looked at other locations in town? Specifically, have you looked along the Ogden Avenue corridor?
Yes, and we did not find anything that could work. I did try to reach out to Chirag, I think it's Chirag Patel. I think you originally had the 1937 group in. No one was willing to return a phone call. So there is that freestanding building that was proposed to be a dispensary. Crickets there. I went up and down Ogden with no luck in something that would work. So when I talked to Libby and was able to connect with David, 9046, that 2,900 square feet, was the most viable location that we could find.
So the Ogden Avenue location, that was actually approved in 2023. It went to the zoning board in April, was unanimously approved, came to the village board. We unanimously approved that at that time. That has a pending issue before planning and zoning this month on that.
Correct, on the 22nd.
So that's kind of still up in the air where that goes. Is that something worth pursuing more?
I don't believe so. So I do know of the applicants there, 1937 group, and I know that there are multiple communities that they have done the same thing to. So there's some financial issues, I believe, for that group in order to get this thing done.
But if they're not looking to get it done there, isn't that a viable location?
Here's where it is not. They don't want to give it up. So because I have tried unsuccessfully.
So
I
they're
have
still-
reached out multiple times.
So they're still pushing forward to have a dispensary at that location?
Yeah, when you're in the cannabis industry and you're plane crashing, you do want to sell those licenses. So I assume if they have to, they would like to unload those licenses and location to some other potential person. But I don't know, that's their business, of course. I did consider that, but it was just simply not an option.
You talked about some of the other local neighborhood dispensaries. You didn't mention the closest one, which is North Riverside.
Well, Starbuds. I thought I said Riverside.
Well,
so-
that's Riverside. There's North Riverside on
Oh.
22nd and First.
Okay.
There's also Westchester on Roosevelt and Manheim. you have the Broadview, you have the Berwyn. I'm counting 7 within close proximity to this location.
Yeah, so we don't consider that close, just so you know. So if you-
1.9 miles to North Riverside.
Again, excuse me, I've asked you nice, for those of you that haven't arrived, I'll make my speech again. We're gonna give everyone a chance to talk. Please respect the person at the microphone, and I will make sure you get the same respect. But please do not make comments, laugh, mutter, anything like that. The room is very small, and it doesn't work that way. We'll get through this whole meeting, we'll give everybody a chance to talk. So, the people that didn't walked in afterwards maybe didn't hear that, so now everybody knows, so.
I
sorry.
bring that up because what I read has the overall revenue from this kind of plateauing. And it has me wondering, are we just cutting up the pizza in smaller pieces? Because with 7, you're 1.9 miles away. The one North Riverside is a mile closer than Riverside. So that's a lot in the area. If you're saying the Ogden Avenue one is still something in play, all these also are on pretty major streets. We're talking on Harlem, on Roosevelt, on Ogden, on First
Yeah, I
Avenue.
think I do have an answer for that, to be honest. So we're watching alcohol sales. I don't know if you're following what's happening with alcohol sales, but they are plummeting exponentially. And humans, we in this community, are choosing cannabis. So because we do this across the country, we see Brookfield, and specifically locating Prolific Dispensary here, as one of the best locations left in the state, believe it or not, because of the lack of competition. So if you look at a community, for example, like Schaumburg, there could be, I think, within maybe a 0.2, 0.3 mile radius between Elk Grove Village and Hoffman and these guys, you'll see maybe 7, 8 dispensaries, way closer. So I have yet to see in BLS 5, which is the district that we call this, so Cook County and Naperville, a location that is not cannibalized, to your point, to the extent that Brookfield is. Not only do you not have a dispensary, but LaGrange Park doesn't have one, LaGrange doesn't have one. Western Springs, which of course could go to Westmont, and Hinsdale could go to Westmont. But I think there is an argument, understanding that we as the globe are giving up on alcohol, and we're looking to this plant as a way to not only fight against overprescriptions, but certainly alcohol. So if you're asking me the question directly, I will tell you this community does need a dispensary. There is no sure thing that you're going to have a dispensary on Ogden. I think you've been waiting for 3 years for it. You doubled down on a group that wasn't able to do it. You have a group here that is not only willing to open a dispensary and put their own dollars out of their pocket, but they're going to show up every day and commit to this community and do it in a way that I would want to see it done, because my grandkids are here. So I don't really, I will tell you, this is one of the few ones left where there isn't competition. Because if you think of your alcohol or your liquor stores and how close they are, cannabis is coming up and pushing those aside, and it is a substance that is not nearly as lethal. And we need it, guys. Cannabis does not kill, it's not addictive, and it is offering seniors and patients respite from pain and anxiety and sleep, and those are just the studies, guys.
So just in the last comment or question with it is, at this time,
Yeah.
the reason you and your group are before us is because this requires a special use. It's not by right. You can't just pick a location in town and have it there. This board, or a previous board, did approve a location in Brookfield for a cannabis dispensary. We did. So some of the arguments you make, we're past that. Okay, we saw this as a location for it, at that location. Now we're looking at a different location, and that's what's before us tonight.
No, I think that's smart, and I think if we just speak to this location, it has been vacant since 2019, so we're going on 6 years. when it was built, 1960, it did start as a pharmacy, and that is what cannabis is. Again, many of us in this room have probably lost their health care, and many, many, many people in this community have turned to cannabis just to get through some basic pain and sleep. This is not a drug that we are running from right now. It's a drug that we as a country have turned to embrace. So putting one on the corner and being involved in the community with a local owner, I think does have value. You will see cannabis dispensaries all over this state. So I guess that's my response. You do need one on that corner, I believe.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Board members have other questions right now at the point? I mean, I know there's going to be public comment from the audience, but while we have this,
So there's lots of concern about underage use. I think you had this information on the slide, but can you just talk us through the entry process to the
Yeah.
store and how you ensure that nobody who is not of age is even entering the business?
No, it's such a good question. Thank you. So when you walk in the front door, you see that reception desk sitting there. So not only do we have a guard that pretty much stays up in reception, but of course circles the building constantly. The first thing you do when you walk in is you have to have your driver's license ready. If that is not a valid ID, and we're only going to take a passport or a driver's license, we are going to scan it through the state system. If that person is not 21, and this is not like the liquor store, you cannot fudge this. This isn't going and making your fake ID when you're 18. There is no way you're going to get past us if you are not 21. We are not a liquor store. You may not, under any circumstances, bring a child into our dispensary. So that's absolutely off limits. So those are the steps. Now there's another step. Once you get past reception, you are buzzed in through secure doors. If you've already placed your order, you're going straight to the sales assistant. They check your ID again. So you have 2 steps to that process before you can ever touch marijuana. We are unbelievably strict. Joe and I have opened multiple dispensaries in this state alone with 0 infractions. We will not serve anyone underage.
any other questions at this point?
Not yet.
I have a few, and I don't know if it's, if you want to answer them, or maybe Dave or even staff. I mean, one of the criteria is the proposed use compatibility with existing uses on the site in the vicinity. And obviously, I appreciate you're a very experienced group, and not just locally, but statewide. I didn't realize you had the ones downstate and stuff. But are any of your other dispensaries have residences attached to the building, whether above or right next to it?
No residents above or beyond in this state.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's in Oregon and other states, that European style. Now, President, in the city of Chicago, the answer is yes, but I don't operate or run those. So it's not atypical to do. I just haven't myself done one.
And are you aware what the arrangement, I mean, this came up during the special use request when a Dave Care facility came through. I mean, there are 3 residential units above it, and there's a question of the parking spaces leased per their rent and leases and how they affect. Are you aware of what those, I mean, where?
I am.
Okay.
I am.
And what is that?
2 of the tenants, I understand, are month-to-month with no parking spaces. There's a 3rd tenant, because there's 3 units, whose lease is up April 31st. They have been allocated a single parking space.
Okay. And the people, is there any dedicated spaces in the back that are dedicated to the apartments? Dave, I mean.
One space.
Just one?
Yes, 1 space.
So the other apartments that are month to month, when they move out, when new people move in, Dave, because you're the leasing agent of the building, do they have any access to parking?
I won't be the leasing agent on apartments, but here's, it's similar, but not.
If you could come up to the microphone, just so everybody could hear.
I would ask you to think about it from this perspective. I opened a brewery in Oak Park pre-COVID, and we built out 2 apartments on the 2nd floor, which didn't exist. And this brewery is going to be open till 2 in the morning, and they're going to have music. It's going to be noise. So specifically, the folks that we hire to rent the apartments, guys, there's going to be music till 2 a.m. So guess what? They only rented to people that worked in the restaurant and bar industry. So,
I understand, I'm questioning the parking allocation, if there's parking spaces allocated, and if they're not allocated to the resident upstairs, I mean, because part of it is the compatibility with the use and how it affect the neighborhood. And the space, I'm very familiar with the neighborhood, so the spaces along the side have a time restriction. And when previously, when the zoning and the daycare option came in front of the board, that parking lot to the west did not exist. That parking lot is now village-owned and operated, and there's a 2-hour restriction on there. So where would the employees for the dispensary be parking?
I could answer that if you'd like.
Please.
So even at peak times, we wouldn't probably see more than 5 employees. We do have first right of refusal on the apartments upstairs and would like to have that for the Laws family and/or employees. But in terms of parking, if they're not coming from public transit, which drops right in front, worst case scenario, we would see 5 cars.
Okay, and where would you anticipate those 5 cars?
Well, we have
parked?
11 behind the building. That, of course, is including the residents if it's not one of us, or we haven't had those. And then alongside the building, we'd like to keep that for in and out traffic. Having run many of these dispensaries, I will tell you that the time in and out of a dispensary is very, very quick, 5 to 8 minutes. So we do expect that kind of turnover and not a lot of loitering traffic. So I have not yet seen this much parking in any dispensary I have built, with the exception of Elk Grove Village, which we had a full parking lot. So even the Shell station, which is considerable traffic in and out, it is quick, and we typically are using those 3, maybe 4 spaces directly in front of the retail establishment. So I guess my just subjective, just personal answer is, I think we have an amazing parking. I think we have more parking than we could ever use, and I do not believe that we would heavily rely on the public parking. We wouldn't even have to rely heavily on the public parking, given that we have 6 spaces alongside, 11 in the back, and possibly overflow on the public parking, which we've surveyed, and I don't see it currently getting a ton of use at the moment.
And maybe staff could, those 6 spaces that you're talking about on the west side and Park, those aren't specifically regulated or owned by the building or operated by the building?
No, I mean attached to the building are. The ones attached to the building.
Behind the building?
No, there's also the those parking spots alongside Park Avenue, diagonal ones. Oh, should we show?
I believe those are 2-hour village parking spots.
Those are not specifically dedicated to the building. Those are general
Right, those are
public spaces.
6 additional.
Oh, you mean the
Public
ones
spaces
touching the
on-
building, right?
Correct.
Okay. Oh, are they? Okay, so then
Yes.
there's space directly beside the building, and those are public? I didn't even know that.
Okay.
That's good.
Well, then again, that was just part of, because those are meant for also for other businesses and used for other businesses. But,
Oh, absolutely, yes.
But in that, because again, your knowledge and your experience in the area, I mean, as Trustee Ketchmark brought up the other locations in the area, you mentioned things like LaGrange Park and Western Springs don't have it. Have you applied, or do you know why they don't have any?
I started with them back when the medical program just started, and I've presented in front of them many times. They have decided not to have cannabis dispensaries at this time, and I don't know what their logic is, but I do know that that entire corridor has said no. So Hinsdale as well, Western Springs, LaGrange Park are all no's, which is why there is a demand for a dispensary in the area, for sure.
Okay. Those are just questions I
Yeah,
had
no,
for now.
I-
I appreciate it.
I had a quick question, just around generally the flow of traffic inside the store at
Yeah.
any given time. How many people are allowed in the store shopping at one time versus being in the waiting area? And like kind of what's the flow of people in and out?
So the flow is, we keep it pretty close to we call them bud tenders, we can call them sales associates, but that ratio, even given the Shell station as an example, which is 2,500 square feet, heavy traffic, our numbers do not show more than 8 at a time at a peak season, peak busyness in that 4 to maybe 6 range. I would expect that we'd see heavy turnover, but maybe top 6 people at a time. Because remember, the cannabis industry is the new retail. So the majority, the 65% and sometimes higher, those customers are placing that order online. Those products are packaged, they're ID'd, they're picking it up, and they're leaving. So that's really how it works. Remember, you're not shopping because there are no products out. So it's a pharmacy, essentially.
Could I ask a question
Yes.
of Libby? Just to clarify, this project would not require any sort of parking variance, correct?
That is correct. It's retail to retail.
Thank you.
And
I
that was
think,
addressed. Oh, go ahead.
and I don't know if the residents upstairs are in the room right now, but I will say that when the daycare that was proposed in this spot was up in front of the Planning Commission, those residents upstairs did come out and were very concerned at that time. They were very active and very concerned because of the parking issues associated with the daycare. We did not see those residents at the Plan Commission meeting for this use. So I don't know if that means that they're not concerned, but they certainly aren't as active, unless they're here today, in which case I hope that we will hear from them.
Other questions of the applicant or the representative right now? Okay. What, anything else you wanted to add in the just presentation? Otherwise, I'm going to see if the board wants to discuss further, or if you want me to open it up to public comment. Okay. Okay. If you want to, I'm now going to go through public comment to give members of the public a chance to address the village board. And we're going to kind of do this systematically. And again, I ask people to please honor what I said before. Please respect who's ever speaking. Let them speak. Don't interrupt. And again, I mentioned this earlier, we don't count applause or jeering in terms of making decisions, so just let everyone make their comments. I'm not putting a 3-minute limit on anyone like I could. We want to allow as much comment as possible. Please keep your comments, directly related to the issue before us. So, and this, right now, again, at the end of we have 4 other items up tonight after this. There will be general public comment allowed at the end of the night. This time, I'm just opening it up to public comment related to proposed dispensary. Any other public comment will have to wait till later tonight. So, starting on this side, is there anyone who'd like to comment on the dispensary issue? I see here, I'm going to start towards the front, and again, it's really hard to see people on the end. Is that Mitzi? And I'm just going to ask each person to state their name for the record.
Hi, good evening. Mitzi Norton, 3841 Morton Avenue here in Brookfield. I just wanted to thank you for the time tonight. I was closely involved with the board. I think it might have been 2018 or 19 when we were first discussing if Brookfield was going to allow for business license applications for cannabis dispensaries, and we spoke at length, and I think that we talked a lot about the concerns that I've seen online, the things that our representative from Water and Trees addressed tonight. And I think at that time, the village board made a really wise, thorough, and wholesome decision to allow for this. So while I can understand some of the concerns, my concern here by not allowing for this special use permit is just kind of the denial of new business development. I love living in Brookfield. Lately, seeing some businesses close or other new development that didn't open business. Specifically, I'll call out the mixed-use residential building next to Brennan Spa. I'm not sure the name of the building, if there is one, but hopeful new development that hasn't seemed to matriculate at this point. I am thrilled that we have interest on 31st Street, where we haven't seen so much new development lately, but knowing, having shopped at dispensaries in Illinois, Michigan before, I know that they're very well-developed, planned businesses. They often look almost like the Apple Store when you go inside. They're very pleasant. You are in and out really, really fast, and I have never not been carded by driver's license at least twice anytime I've shopped at a dispensary. And even though you do go through higher security, you truly are out within 6 to 8 minutes, as the representative from Water and Trees said. So I would like to see this approved because I think that the tax revenue is much needed. I think the focus on Brookfield and new development, this could spur other interest. I also work for a data analytics company in the consumer goods industry, and I also agree with the notion that alcohol sales are down, cannabis sales are up. The interest is shifting in the marketplace for where adults are seeking relaxation, enjoyment, medicinal purposes, and so forth. So one final thing I'll say is that I found it to be very refreshing to hear that we have interest from someone who is well-versed in the industry, knows the regulations across the state of Illinois, has been doing this without what sounds like legal issues at the state or local levels with businesses, cannabis dispensaries that she's already practicing. So it sounds like we finally have a really viable candidate here, and so I hope that we can approve this and develop our beautiful town that we already have. So thank you.
Sorry, thank you. Okay, who else on this side? Gentleman in the white or cream? I knew I was gonna say eggshell, but the board would have laughed at me.
Oh, thank you. My name is Josh Edwards. I live at 9015 Roach Avenue. It's really just down the way from Dispensary. It's right across the alleyway from the Blue Water Grill. So right there. Anyhow, we have a garage that opens up on the alleyway. And I was just, going through what has been said so far. My concern, this isn't about cannabis. I mean, you guys have went through those discussions before, but it was, looking at 8 minutes per person and then up to 6 people at a time in there. If you do the math, that's 45 people per hour, 45 cars per hour going in and out of the dispensary. And again, living there since 2008, the alleyway isn't going to be able to handle that traffic. I mean, there's potholes you could bury someone in. I mean, it's really bad back there. So my concern is the roadways there, the infrastructure, the roads, and it being really unsafe for people. Right now, with people from the bar, they'll come back after they buy their liquor and they'll dump bottles in the alleyway right against our property. And so 2 or 3 times a year, I have to go back and rake out bottles that are empty, from my yard. So I guess my concern is that that's going to happen with people also going there, possibly who might be walking there. So those are my concerns. It's really the safety and the increased traffic that can happen, with that. So,
Thank you for coming out. Thank you for your comments.
thank you.
Okay, who else on this side? Ma'am, here with the glasses? Yes, yes. I'm sorry, I'm gonna do yes, you can come forward, ma'am. I'm sorry, it's really hard to see. If you had the view from up here, it's really hard to see.
And I'm not very tall.
Vertically challenged is what we call it. I'm right there with you.
Right. Hi, my name is Meaghan Allen. I live at 9431 Jefferson. For the sake of redundancy, I'm not going to go through the whole list. I'm sure you'll hear. I'm pro the dispensary. I think we're hearing online, we're seeing a lot of chatter, and we're seeing a lot of conversation about the traffic. That seems to be the number one reasoning. If that's a legitimate reason, I can tell you from my personal experience using dispensaries, there is not traffic issues. There, as they have previously stated, you're in and out in probably 5 to 7 minutes. We also we've lost a couple of businesses in the last month. It's nice to have a family-owned business that wants to come into town, and maybe it will inspire other businesses to come into town. We also have, bear with me. As far as, I have heard a couple people mention the bottles being thrown in alleys and broken glass on the ground. Perhaps that could be addressed with the businesses who are responsible for that, rather than suggesting that an incoming business would do that. I have worked in banking for most of my career, and I can tell you that every dispensary I've ever been in Illinois and Michigan, has been more secure than any bank I've ever worked in. I can't imagine that there would be any security issues. And again, it would just be nice to see a family-owned business come into town. It would be nice to see a vacant building full again. It's been empty for 6 years, and as my background is in real estate, I would agree that blight and vacancy is far worse for real estate than than a dispensary. And based on what I've read through the NAR publications, there's no negative impact that they're seeing across the country when dispensaries are open near residential areas. So, thanks.
Thank you for coming out. Well, I see a couple hand, whoever's the closest hand to me that's raising, just step up. All right.
Hi, Joanne Janetopolis, 3021 Prairie. I was just taking some notes based on everything I was hearing tonight, and very educational, listening to everything that's being said. So I just had a couple questions I wanted to ask you guys that maybe you do know the answers to. Again, you mentioned renters. I do think it is always important to consider them even if they're not here, because that does help with property value, having space for renters to park. In that area in the back by the alleyway, again, great idea for employees only and renters, because we don't want alley traffic, as a resident mentioned, coming through the alley to cut into that area. Traffic coming off 31st Street towards Park, the Parkway is on angle. So when people pull out, they're gonna pull towards Roach Avenue and 30th Street. So that's where your increased traffic was gonna be. So I just wanted you guys to consider that. Most people are not gonna turn around and do a U-turn, or they're gonna cut through the alley going towards 31st, towards between Roach and that. So just to kind of consider that as well. The entrance they talked about in the beginning, I was just wondering, is that going to be the only entrance and exit for the dispensary if it's put there? Because I'm not sure how with the west side and the east side. At one point they were connected and you can get out other doors. So I just wanted to know, is it going to be a complete division between like walls put in if it's not already there, just to make sure that, and legally you do have to have other exits for fire safety and code, but is for the patrons, is there only one exit? So that,
I'm going to try to see, maybe we could answer, does the floor plan that we put up have, I understand what you're talking about, can people exit into the adjacent building to the east of it?
They cannot. I can help.
Sure. If you could just, again, if you could come up just so that everyone on the microphone can hear, you can share a microphone.
So when you come into the building, there's an entrance. You exit as a customer outside of that, the reception area. There is a back entrance that is dedicated to deliveries. So deliveries never come in through the front, is kind of what it is. So,
deliveries by the, who's bringing the product in?
yes, are on the back of the
On
building.
back end, but
Yeah.
the individuals, the patrons, where do they exit? The same as the
Same,
entrance?
same as the entrance, through the reception, so that there's a, so when you first come in, there's a public access area essentially.
Okay.
And that is, so you come in and out. Now, to get into the actual dispensary, which is a restricted access area, you enter through a door, and there are two separate doors allowing you in and out of the restricted access area into the reception. But and then of course, there is zero contact between the dispensary and the adjacent retail space. So that 1,500 square feet, there is no contact. I mean, there's a wall between them.
Right.
Yeah, but nothing
But
else.
there's no entrance anymore going to.
No,
absolutely,
no.
used to be.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And even access to the basement is segregated. So there's a basement that holds the HVAC units.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I had another question. The video surveillance, they said they hold, it's 24/7, they hold for only 90 days. Well, I say only 90. That could be a standard, I'm not sure, and they said that's because they do a review with somebody you had mentioned. But my question is, because this is something new to Brookfield, would it be prudent for us to extend that 90 days a little bit longer in case we do need to go back and look at something? Just because if it is our first time doing a dispensary, can we legally, and would it be prudent to do?
So I can answer that. So we are constantly taking video surveillance. The Illinois State Police has access to it. So the way they work with us, if anything is untoward in the area, they notify us, we pull the footage and give it to them, which we would also do for Brookfield, always. So yes, I think my answer is we would give Brookfield Police the same access that we give the Illinois State Police. Yes. I can stay here too.
Let me just, okay, let me just make sure, because again, this was just based on listening, and I just think it's important that I'm trying to be open-minded to it. I feel like I'm not pro the location, but I'm trying to be open-minded to it. It does sound like a very nice interior space. Let's see, who is the owner of the building? We kept mentioning who's leasing and who's not leasing. Who is the actual owner?
It's called Polar Properties, called the Kumar family, they're out in St. Charles.
And that's who you represent then?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right. Okay, and because I don't know, but I'm assuming there's no delivery, you can't deliver, you have to come in. So like at a pharmaceutical, CVS or whatever, Walgreens, they can deliver.
You mean like
They can't order online and have anything delivered. They
That's
have
correct.
to come in and pick it up.
That's absolutely
Okay,
correct.
just
You
so
gotta come in
the
and show
IDs.
IDs twice.
Okay, I think, and you said there's no leaf signage anywhere out
No.
there, anything like that. Okay, I think allocated residence facility. Oh, one last thing. You said that the cameras are, for the no consumption area, is a defined, around the facility, there's a defined area. What does around the facility mean?
Okay, I can
Is
answer
that 10 feet, is that,
Yeah, so our high-resolution cameras literally pick up license plates in and around the building. So we're mandated to do that. Joe, can you help me? Did we hit the street? We do hit a pretty wide perimeter, don't we?
Yeah, but not just street curves.
Yeah.
Coming towards the curb, absolutely.
Okay, so anything that is the property itself, we've got the.
What is the consumption rule? You said that there's a,
Zero.
in any, like,
Zero.
wherever the cameras are reaching, okay.
I mean, if we see consumption, we lose our minds. I mean, the
Okay.
security guards are out there going crazy. We have zero tolerance
Okay,
for
and that's
consumption.
another reason for like that
Yeah.
alleyway not being.
No, and we'll
parking
monitor
towards
that, because
that.
remember, somebody shot out the windows. There's been some incidents on this corner. Those will not be the case. We will keep it extremely clean.
I was supposed to be talking to her.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, me too. No,
But
I got
anyways,
it.
Thank you for your time. Thank you. All right.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, who else? Again, I'm just counting on whoever's the farthest up raising their hand, just come up, the honor system here.
Hi, good evening. My name's Alexandra Musgrove. I live at 3106 Oak Ave. My garage almost made the picture. I want to thank you for the opportunity for speaking in front of you tonight and for your openness in hearing my perspective. I'm not against cannabis consumption. However, I am against where this dispensary location is being placed. 31st Street, in my opinion, is turning into a 21-plus strip mall where families are supposed to be growing and raising their children. We have a liquor store, we have 2 bars, and the only thing that we have that is wholesome is an ice cream shop. I'm not worried about the reduction in my house value or increased crime. They've very well stated the level of security that will be around the store. However, we have heard a lot about the potential retail opportunities for this space and how difficult it has been to fill it. However, earlier in tonight's meeting, we also heard during the Chamber of Commerce update that we gained a few new businesses in Brookfield. So I have to disagree that filling this space is from a lack of interest or potential. Also, as the gentleman earlier described, that there are other businesses that have been interested. There are also at least 2 other dispensaries within 10 minutes of this proposed location, and another potential one being placed in Brookfield. We don't have a lack of cannabis retail spaces, so I am not for having this space right in the middle of a residential area. As you think about the investment of businesses in our community, I urge you to think about how we are investing in northern Brookfield as a community for all. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Yes, you can come up, yep.
My name is Lauren Baker. I live at 9101 29th Street. So I'm on the actual street the proposed dispensary is on, even though I'm 29th, I really am on Park, on the corner. And I think it's about 11 years I've lived there, and I've really seen, like, knowing the neighborhood. I mean, Brookfield is a very diverse community, right? Like North Brookfield, the specific location where we live, is very up-and-coming, family-growing neighborhood. I mean, Brook Park has 870 first through fifth grade students, right? So I think one of the most positive things that I've experienced living there is that the turnover, the change in the neighborhood, and just feeling like, wow, like we chose such a great place to raise our kids because we have this park, we have this like flourishing community of kids and just great neighbors. So that is something that really, I just felt like our neighborhood had a great character, you know. The liquor store in 31st didn't seem to detract from that. The Martini Bar is just a quiet little cozy place. But when it came to the prospect of thinking of another, you know, substance might like altering place next to this row, I was concerned, like, what are we communicating? Like, what is our town now projecting? And there's great plans there, and I feel like there's, I was relieved to know that, like, what it might look like, not a glaring sign and not something that would be a eyesore, but I do really think it just affects the compounding problem and impact on our little nook of neighborhood that we already have. So one of the biggest pieces is that none of the dispensaries in the surrounding neighborhoods are on actual residential streets. I was actually shocked to know that was considered a business district because there's like only a few businesses that share that small parking. And last meeting, I really expressed all the parking concerns, which we've talked about today. But also no dispensaries are near a park. It's 1,550 feet from Candy Cane Park, which for me, that was really shocking. And compounding the already glaring traffic problem that we have in our neighborhood that I know the click it, ticket, whatever system online is flooded with because we just have such a problem of cut-throughs in the neighborhood. My own dog was run over on Park Avenue. Like, neighbors have shared stories, like, I'm the crazy mom all the time, like, screaming at cars that drive by and ignoring stop signs. So when a traffic study was denied for this, it was really disappointing by the planning committee. It didn't seem that safety was central in mind. And it wasn't good to know that there's security, but I also came to mind, like, there is a lack of police presence in that section of North Brookfield, and I know they might be allocated to other parts, but I'm just wondering, you know, I think that changes things a bit where, you know, if I don't see many Brookfield officers, you know, present outside Candy Cane Park, like, that might be something that will be necessary and change. We're seeing a security guard on our corner. You know, I'm not sure how many people with negative intentions will know that there's not just like pot everywhere to go and grab. I'm not quite sure how that might work, so that's a question in my mind. But I want to be solutions-based, and while it doesn't seem to fit, you know, the neighborhood vibe, like, my solutions would be, you know, if this happens to be so, I think there needs to be like a one-way. You know, it is a bus route, which will affect that, but I just think the cars shouldn't, you know, be able to cut through the neighborhood. So I think it might be really important to consider a barrier that doesn't allow the through traffic. You know, speed bumps would be something as well, but I just think that careful planning for our specific community is important and not just convenience. So, and also if it does open, that I just would hope that it's important that residents that are directly affected should have an ongoing voice and be able to adapt and change and meet and decide if things are not working or what address problems that may come up. So thank you.
Thank you for coming out. Who else on this side, again, I'm just, this gentleman here.
My name is William Narkis. I live across the alley, 9021 Roach. I don't believe there should be a dispensary. I'm concerned about the safety. I'm also concerned about the noise. Of course, I look right behind the bar there. You hear motorcycles start up at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm sure there are going to be a lot of motorcycles coming. Anyway, I'm not good at this.
No, that, I appreciate you coming
Thank
out
you.
and stating your views, and appreciate it.
Oh, one more thing.
Yes.
I don't think all these people here smoke pot. I don't like when somebody says old people need pot. I don't like it.
Thank you. Okay, who else on this side? Again, I'm just counting on the honor system. Whoever's the closest to me that's raising their hands, come on up.
Hi, good evening. My name is Deanne Corello, and I'm a lifelong resident of Brookfield and have lived on my home on 9104 Roach for the past 19 years. I want to begin by thanking you for your service and time and the thought you're going to be putting into your decision tonight. I know the choice isn't easy, and no matter what you decide, some residents are going to be disappointed. And so I don't envy you, but I thank you for it. As I'm sure you're aware, most residents do not speak at these meetings. Tonight is different. Tonight we are here because this decision affects the neighborhood we live in, the families we raise, and the character of our community. That is why your discretion and our voices matter. Brookfield, over the last decade, has been very intentional about planning and creating family-oriented spaces. Streets, parks, and businesses reflect that planning. I want places that I can bring my family, not just my mother-in-law, not just anyone over 21. I want my whole family, from my nieces to anybody that is under 21 to come with me. And the village's website reinforces this. In the community section, the very first paragraph highlights a 1993 Chicago Tribune article that describes Brookfield as a friendly and family-focused community that puts family first and quite possibly second, third, and fourth. And that description was intentionally featured in your recently designed website, signaling what the village itself values. And so that's why planning in this corridor matters. This proposal comes to you as a special use. It's not required. And it's important that you take the voices of the neighbors who live here, because we see this corridor every day. We understand its character, its challenges, and what fits. And this location is Zone C4. According to Village Code, it is intended to provide the daily and frequent shopping needs of nearby residents. It clearly says nearby, while generating only low to moderate traffic. Its purpose is to serve the local community, not draw from the outside. The petitioner has stated that they want to attract customers from outside of Brookfield. If that is their goal, they need to locate to a district that is built for that purpose, like C1 General, which accommodates higher volumes of vehicular and pedestrian traffic. And that's why you have your zoning map. It guides where you're supposed to be putting these districts. Why have a zoning map if you're going to allow one-offs in districts that are not intended for regional traffic? You risk setting a precedent that is impossible to control. And other communities plan carefully. Hodgkin's Dispensary is set away from residential areas. Westchester is standalone. Riverside is also standalone and not located near any of their family-oriented spaces. Although it's across from a library, that's Berwyn's library. Riverside was very careful not to put it by their community spaces. Brookfield would be doing something very different. Here on 31st Street, there are residents living above and directly to the side of property, making this situation unique. In contrast, the dispensary at Prairie and Ogden is built to accommodate higher volumes. Ogden stretches further and is better suited for regional traffic. 31st Street, in comparison, ends at Des Plaines and Highland and is not designed to handle that kind of activity. Approving a use intended to attract non-local customers would place additional strain on parking, circulation, and the character of the surrounding neighborhood. And Brookfield already has a significant number of adult uses, including liquor stores and bars, compared to our surrounding communities. And I know there's a liquor store here, and I know there's bars here, but we don't need to continue adding adult uses. I would have these same concerns if you were proposing another liquor store or a smoke shop. These are not family stores, and adding more will shift the corridor away from the character that the village is working to preserve. And we do not have 2 donut shops, so why do we need 2 cannabis shops? We shouldn't be the first or the leader. No other surrounding communities have multiple dispensaries. They all have 1. The only exceptions are Schaumburg and Naperville, who are much bigger than us. I also want to note that we still have not heard clear information about how many customers are expected during the day, at nighttime, what the busy seasons, what are we looking at for weekends? And this matters because 31st Street is not designated to accommodate high traffic volumes or waiting lines. I want whatever business that goes here to be successful. I want to have thriving shops that serve residents well, but there is a very big difference between having a highly successful hair salon, physical therapy location versus a dispensary. I have never seen a line for a physical therapy, but I have seen for highly successful dispensaries. And I don't want a line in my backyard. And so I think this is an important distinction that you need to consider whether this use fits here. And then, as others have mentioned, and I'll be brief on it, traffic and parking are important. When we were coming here, there were 3 spots available in the rear parking lot. The tenants are using that space up there. Now, this parking lot that has been just put in, it depends on the day. It is used. On weekends it is. And when the summer months, the ice cream shop does attract a lot of people to that one. And if you're looking to bring more traffic into this area and change the function, you need to consider parking and traffic before approval. Don't be reactive, be proactive. And you already have a dispensary at Prairie and Ogden. And we're not arguing whether you should have one or not. It's whether a second location is appropriate, and particularly in a district that is not intended for regional draw or adult use destinations. Vacant storefronts are frustrating, but filling them for the sake of filling them is not good planning. There are permitted uses that fit this district without a special use. Waiting for the right tenant is better than approving a use that will permanently change the corridor. So based on the zoning intent, surrounding uses, and long-term implications, I respectfully ask you to deny this request. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mark Corello, and I live at 9104 Roach. And I want to preface this by saying that I have absolutely no issues with people using cannabis recreationally, and I believe it has some benefit in medicinal use as well, for sure. That's not what this is about. That being said, I don't believe that we should have a cannabis dispensary in our town for a couple of reasons. I'm a lifelong resident of Brookfield, grew up here my whole life, and I've seen our business mix and our tax reliance slide ever heavier towards these so-called sin taxes. If I pulled up on a Illinois.gov website, it looks like Brookfield currently has, according to that, 39 liquor licenses outstanding. Granted, about half of those are some of the family restaurants and stuff. But that's, about a dozen bars and half a dozen establishments that retail liquor at least. 39 seems pretty weighty for a town of less than 20,000 population. And I didn't look up licensing for gambling machines, but within most of those on-premise served alcohol places, I'm pretty sure that most of those have gambling machines as well. So it's just not the community I grew up in, and I understand times have changed, but I'm not sure it's the community I want to see it going that way either. I think Brookfield's a wonderful town, but I think that in that respect, we're heading in the wrong direction, and we've got to get back a mix of businesses that's a little bit more family-oriented. Secondly, marijuana is federally illegal today. The president did reclassify it as a Class 3 drug, so it's less illegal, but it is still illegal in the eyes of the federal government. I know times are changing, and my fear there is really that it still is illegal and that the federal government could take punitive measures on towns that have let businesses sell illegal products in their eyes by withholding federal monies, funding, and grants. I believe during the board meeting, the gentleman from Hancock Engineering spoke of the project, the Maple Avenue project that's going to be done from 31st to Brookfield Avenue. 80% of that, he said, was being funded by federal grants. That project probably wouldn't get done if we had our federal funding pooled. And look at the federal funding they're pulling for other things, for SNAP, daycare, other things. The government could very well do it. It's not out of the question. So my fear is definitely there on that. And I know that we've already opened the door with a licensing for this type of use at the Prairie and Ogden location, but I haven't seen, that's been pretty stagnant for the last year and a half or whatever. I don't know what's going to happen there, but even if that one does come to fruition, it's really, if we find out a year from now that we need to close the door on it, it's going to be a lot easier having one outstanding license for this, not multiple outstanding licenses. So I would just ask the board to really heavily consider it before you put out any other so-called syntax licenses in our town. I think we had enough, and especially ones that could jeopardize financing from federal funding. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Kathleen Lojas, and I think I have a unique spin on this. I live at 9118 30th Street, but I taught at Riverside Brookfield for 30 years. And I will tell you, I dealt with many, many students who dealt with addiction issues. And while marijuana is not as addicting for adults as alcohol is, the statistics for children are very different. And high school students, although they don't like to be called so, they are children physically and emotionally. The number one way that students would get what they wanted was to have a friend who was 21 and over walk into the dispensary, walk out of the dispensary, walk a block away, and share what they have bought. So that is one of my concerns with putting a dispensary in an area that's highly traveled by students going to and from school, both Gross School, Riverside Brookfield, and Brook Park. I am also, like many other residents, am concerned about traffic. I'm also concerned, in summer evenings, the ice cream place is full. Families are sitting outside eating their ice cream. Yes, the security guard is there, but there's nothing to prevent somebody from walking out of the dispensary, sitting at a picnic table in front of the ice cream place and partaking of marijuana. So I also refute the idea that marijuana is not lethal in some cases because it's still highly illegal to drive under the influence of marijuana. And I don't think a lot of people necessarily wait until they're at home to use their products, or they may be buying when they're already under the influence. So for those reasons, I would really like to see us not have a dispensary at this location. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for coming out. Who else on this side? Anyone else for now on this side? Yes, ma'am, in the back, standing.
Hi, my name is Teresa Dybert. I live at 9033 Roach, directly behind the liquor store. So I know that Josh has already spoken about the alcohol bottles. Yes, that is a concern, but we address that. We know the businesses and talk to them. My biggest concern is there is over a dozen children that live on the 9,000 block of Roach Avenue, and all of them like to go together to the ice cream shop. The concern is that they then have to cross over Park Avenue. Our block is already used as a detour to avoid the light at 31st and Maple, because we all know that there are a ton of accidents that happen at that corner. It is a nightmare to try to turn left onto Park if it is 5 p.m. in the evening, and then you can't see the children then crossing the street. My biggest concern is the safety of the children in the area and taking away from their ability to walk to the ice cream shop on their own.
Thank you. Anyone else for now on this side? Okay, now I'm going to start on this side. Okay, here we go. I'll get to everyone.
All right, thank you for having us, members of the Village Board. We stand before you today not just as two residents, but as the voices of hundreds of Brookfield families who are asking to be heard. In just a short amount of time, in about 2 weeks, nearly 300 residents have signed a petition opposing this cannabis dispensary at 31st and Park Avenue. These are parents, homeowners, business owners, and neighbors who care deeply about Brookfield and the choices.
And I'm
that
sorry if I could
you
just interrupt, because
are
could you
supposed
both
to
just
make
state your
on
name
our
for the
behalf.
both state your name for the record?
Meaghan Cullen, and I live 3 blocks from the proposed
Thank you.
site.
Leslie Everson, I live at 9134 29th Street, 3 blocks or so.
Thank you, and sorry for interrupting. Just everyone's supposed
So
to.
as I said before, these are parents, homeowners, business owners, and neighbors who care deeply about Brookfield and the choices that you, as the village board, are supposed to make on our behalf. We want to be clear, this isn't about judgment, fear, or opposing progress, or about being against marijuana. It's about safety, responsibility, and common sense.
The proposed dispensary site sits at the heart of a residential neighborhood of Brookfield. It's a mere 3 blocks from Candy Cane Park and less than a mile from Brook Park Elementary, Ossie Gross Middle School, and the Linda Sokol Frankel. I can never say that.
Linda Sokol Francis
Library. I didn't even say it right that time. This is the area where children walk, bike, and play every single day. Family gathers here. The neighborhood is woven into our children's daily lives. Placing a cannabis dispensary here sends the wrong message about our priorities as a village and permanently alters the character of a neighborhood meant to be safe and family-centered.
Dispensaries bring increased traffic, unfamiliar foot traffic, and heightened security risks. Many operate still largely as cash businesses, making them known targets for theft and robbery. When safety risk increases, it doesn't stay contained within a building. It spills certainly into the surrounding streets, homes, and other businesses. One study from Washington State found there was a significant increase in nuisance-related crimes, for example, disorderly conduct and loitering, in the neighborhoods with a marijuana dispensary compared to those devoid of them. Another study from the University of Denver states we found that neighborhoods with 1 or more medical recreational dispensaries saw increased crime rates that were between 26 and 1,452% higher than in neighborhoods without any commercial marijuana activity. Brookfield residents should not be asked to accept these added safety risks in the very place where they raise their children.
Homeowners are also rightfully concerned about their property values. Families invest their life savings into their homes with the expectation that zoning decisions will protect and not destabilize their neighborhoods. From 2015 to 2025, Brookfield property values have experienced substantial growth, with data indicating that an appreciation of approximately 70%. In just the past 10 years, the median home price sale of Brookfield has risen from $260,000 to $370,000. One study done by a socioeconomical professor from the University of South Carolina in Washington State shows that the prices of homes around a new dispensary fall by 3 to 4% on average. In another national survey from the National Association of Realtors, 27% of respondents said property values decrease near new dispensaries. Do we really want to place this unnecessary burden on the residents of Brookfield, the very ones that we're representing here tonight?
In the western suburbs of Chicago, you'll find dispensaries in towns like Broadview, Hodgkins, Westchester, Summit. They're also located on large commercial thoroughfares such as Harlem Avenue, Roosevelt Road, and First Avenue, not in residential areas like the corner of 31st and Park. You will certainly not find dispensaries in LaGrange Park, Hinsdale, Western Springs, or Burr Ridge. And the reason is because those are affluent neighborhoods with people with means and the support to oppose placing dispensaries in their towns. Which group do we want Brookfield to be a part of?
Beyond the location of the dispensary, there are also concerns about how fairness and transparency and how this property has been treated in the past. A local businessman was designed the opportunity to open a daycare at the same site, not only once but twice, due to parking and traffic concerns. He did a traffic study by a professional engineer, and yet now I don't feel like any of these questions are really being asked. Now that I know there's a newly built parking lot across the street, and it just seems like some businesses get treated a little bit differently now, especially if we're, allowing for a cannabis dispensary. That inconsistency raised real questions about the priorities of village and some of the processes.
And the traffic is a concern. You may not want to accept that fact, but the people who live in that section of Brookfield, the woman mentioned there's 12 children on that block. There's times 10 of that just in that small radius around Candy Cane Park. And that park is used by children daily. That's where families go to hang out, and it's already a cut through for people coming through there. And if this proposed business is expecting to do the sales that they are projecting, then that is most certainly going to bring more traffic that will certainly be cutting through that neighborhood and increase danger for our families. We're also really troubled by how this business is being presented. Despite claims that this is a local mom and pop operation, the reality is that the dispensary is backed and managed by an out-of-state, multi-state cannabis consulting firm with a track record of extracting guaranteed fees while holding no long-term accountability to our community. This isn't a local ownership. This is a corporate business model designed to profit first and disengage later. The Tree and Water rep is purposefully misleading us by stating that federal cannabis rescheduling has already been achieved. It has not. The change has not been finalized and must still go through a formal rulemaking process that involves several federal agencies.
We also found that their business plan raises some further red flags. It seems to be missing some financial obligations. There's unclear contingency planning. There's no meaningful discussion of what happens if sales fall short, and no commitment to community reinvestment. Instead, the plan emphasizes aggressive marketing, data-driven advertising, and customer loyalty programs, none of which meaningfully benefit Brookfield families or neighbors.
Look, we understand the appeal of additional tax revenue. However, not all revenue is good revenue or appropriate, and not all businesses belong in all places. Brookfield is a desirable community. It has incredible momentum. Just over the past 7 years, Brookfield has seen the opening of well over 20 small businesses, providing a broad range of wholesome goods and services. This gives you leverage to wait for the right business in this location, one that strengthens our community rather than disparage it.
Once a decision like this is made, it cannot be easily undone. We already are planning on one cannabis dispensary on Ogden. Do we really need a second one? And I don't know that this is what we want to have as the legacy of the board and of our city. I respectfully urge you to deny this approval for the residential section of Brookfield. Listen to the residents who live here, protect our children, preserve our neighborhoods, choose transparency, consistency, and long-term community over well-being over short-term conveniences and quick profits.
Please choose safety. Please choose community. Please choose the families who depend on you to put Brookfield first. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
So much.
Who else on this side? Yes, ma'am in the glasses, yes. Oh, I'm sorry, I'll get you next.
My name is Morgan Stevens. I live at 2933 Vernon, and I'm a Brookfield resident. I'm a mama too, and most importantly, a recent director of a multi-state cannabis organization. I live 0.2 miles from the proposed location. I manage people operations across dispensaries, cultivation, and corporate. I know cultivation and cannabis operations intimately. And a lot of the comments I've heard tonight about my neighbors about making legal cannabis coming to Brookfield is around safety. Safety of our kids, safety of our neighborhoods, and most importantly, the degradation of Brookfield culture. I find this sudden concern for safety ironic, as there are 2 bars, 2 gas stations, and a liquor store in the same proximity. Safety is the same no matter what, cannabis or alcohol in my mind. However, I am not here to argue about alcohol versus cannabis. I came here to talk about cannabis operations and demystify them for my neighbors. When it comes to dispensaries, They're the most heavily regulated, monitored retail business that exists. Every transaction is tracked. Every employee is FBI background checked, state licensed with the IDFPR, current on their state and federal taxes, and child support, which is more than you can say about most people in the working place. How many other industries can say that? And the security protocols exceed what you see at any retail establishments and rival that in gaming. I would know, I come from casinos as well. In my 4 years managing 350 employees, 7+ locations in 4 states, dispensaries have had lower incidences than other retail operations. Cannabis isn't the danger here, it's the unfamiliarity. There are professional medical and adult use facilities that improve neighborhoods through the tax revenue, job creation, and responsible operations. I'd rather have a dispensary near my home than another bar any day. My honest concern, though, is the parking, the increased traffic, but most importantly, the high turnover in cannabis operations, a business plan indicating a $15 hourly wage for the majority of staff. But none of that truly is enough for me to advocate of blocking a viable business entering the Brookfield market, especially with how many are exiting. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I'm sorry, you in the mask here. Yes, and I'll get to you next.
Hello. Hi, Valerie, she, her, hers. I'm at 9108 28th Street. I think, what we heard tonight focused heavily on how safe and regulated dispensaries are, but that isn't the real question in front of Brookfield tonight. The real issue is whether this is the right use and the right location at the right scale for a building that backs directly into a residential neighborhood and sits on a street that already struggles with congestion, parking, and pedestrian safety. We were told this building has been hard to lease tonight and that medical offices, restaurants, and retail have not worked. But to me, that's not a zoning failure, that's a landlord and marketing problem. This is a building that was described tonight with 13-foot ceilings, no columns, ground floor frontage on a major corridor. Presenting a dispensary as the only viable option creates a false choice between vacancy and a high impact use when many lower impact permitted uses still exist. We were also shown first year revenue projections of about $3.5 million. This directly, they also mentioned another business that has $80 million in revenue in a year. When thinking about the level of volume, this means thousands of transactions and well over 1,000 vehicle trips per day. So even if the site starts smaller, the business model is built to scale into something much larger, turning this into a regional destination, not a neighborhood store. What makes this more troubling is that a daycare was previously denied in the same location based on a traffic study, yet a traffic study was not required for this dispensary, even though it would generate far more frequent vehicle trips throughout longer time throughout the day. This is not a consistent or safety-based standard. We were also told tonight that Brookfield would receive 5% of revenue from the sales. This is a state-mandated tax, not a benefit, and it does not come close to covering the real cost of congestion, enforcement, road wear, neighborhood disruption that this type of operation brings. And because neighboring towns have chosen not to allow dispensaries, Brookfield is being asked to absorb their demand and their traffic. This is not about whether cannabis is legal or whether dispensaries have cameras and vaults. It is about whether a high volume, high turnover regional retail operation belongs in a neighborhood scaled district that backs directly into people's homes. This decision is in front of all of you. I hope that you choose to vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else was, yes, did you want to speak? Okay, yes.
Hi, and thank you for your time. I'm Janet Bednar. I'm at 9109 Roach and have been there since 1991, and I am a lifelong resident since birth. I think what is the question at hand is it the right place for this? Not so much, do we want this in our community? Do we need this in our community? I just think it's the wrong corridor. I just think the fact that I'm hearing that no traffic study was done, I assumed it was because I knew it was when it was being looked at for the preschool. I had no idea that one wasn't done and we're this far in the process already. It is without a doubt, there's no way people are going to come out of those diagonals, turn themselves around, and go back out Park to 31st. They're not. They're going to cut right through. They're going to avoid the lights, and you know they're going to be coming through the communities. And so I would just encourage you, wherever you go with this, to please, please do another traffic study for this use in this space.
Thank you. Anyone else on this side at this point? Yes, on the end there? Yeah, you. Sorry, again, sorry.
Good evening, board members. My name is Edward Papardis. I live at 3234 Raymond Avenue. I've been a Brookfield resident since 1999, and this is probably the last thing I would ever think of is I would be standing here at a board meeting speaking about cannabis. A lot of the points that were brought up this evening, I don't want to sit here and reiterate. The one that concerned me was the amount of dispensaries in a radius of approximately 8 miles. There are currently 8 dispensaries in that. Seeing that many in one area like that, I would think that competition, there would be very stiff competition as far as sales go. I don't see how putting 1.6 miles away, which is in North Riverside, would be an optimal location. Again, a lot of parents have stated their concern with children in the area, the park. They also stated that no consumption can be made inside the dispensary, or I would assume in the parking lot, but how would they know if I'm in the parking lot? I buy some edibles, I take one in my car. Who's gonna really know? Is the camera gonna pick that up? What if I'm parked out of camera proximity? There's just a lot of questions that need to be studied and reviewed before we can just pull a trigger and say, okay, yeah, let's just build a dispensary and move forward, collecting all of this revenue, all of these taxes that we're gonna get. Again, one gentleman stated the sin tax. You know, I'm in agreement with a lot of those points that these other people have stated, and I would ask that the board seriously consider this before finalizing it. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out. Yes, Meg, if you could come up to the mic, just so everyone could hear. Sorry.
When are you guys going to vote on this?
That's up to the board, but it most likely, the first opportunity will be 2 weeks from tonight. It's 9 o'clock. We still got 4 other items. I always leave it up to the board if they need more time or they want to vote on this in 2 weeks, but the earliest would be 2 weeks from tonight. And I'll double back. Anyone here? Okay. I'm now going to leave it up to the board how they want to do this. You've heard a lot of public comment. We do have 4 other items up. If the one thing I can guarantee you about this board is they've read everything. They've read the public comments that have been submitted. They've listened. They've read the staff reports. They've read the planning and zoning applications, everything. So just because they don't necessarily make statements or comments tonight doesn't mean they're not interested or they're not thinking about anything. They just, I'll just leave it at that. So I'll open up, if the board wants to discuss this now, they can. If they want, they can give me direction that they want to vote on this in 2 weeks, or they want more time, or there's additional information they're requesting. I'm just the chair of the meeting, so I'm kind of looking for direction from the board.
I have a question for staff. What data do we have in terms of traffic counts for 31st Street, and then any data on traffic crashes in or around that intersection?
From the last study that I saw, it was approximately, it's a state road, Illinois State Road, so there's approximately 14,000 cars that go on there. I don't recall the traffic incidents at that location.
I'm not aware of any traffic incidents at Park and 31st. There are some issues at Maple and 31st, and that's why we've included that area in a traffic study as part of the grant that we've been pursuing for very long for the bike path. The intersection with a signalized intersection is included in that.
Sure.
And on that topic, is Libby or explain why was a parking study required or requested for the daycare or not, and why not here?
Well, for the dispensary, it's not required for special use.
Okay. Was it required for the daycare option?
For the daycare, I was not privy to
Oh,
that.
you weren't.
I don't
so
believe it
someone
was
else-
required, it's not required as per the zoning code. I think the board or the plan commission, you can request it if you'd like.
Sure.
But it was requested during those deliberations.
And Libby, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I forgot that wasn't, I mean, Trustee Hendricks, not to put you on the spot.
In fact, I was gonna bring this up just to clarify for the public who are here, and in fact for the board, the daycare was not denied because of a traffic study. The daycare was denied because of a parking variance. The residents came out, they were not happy with the parking. We have since put in a parking lot across the street. So just to be clear on that, there is no parking question here today as far as this petitioner does meet the parking requirements for this site. So just to be completely clear about that.
But I guess my question was a parking study, if you recall, was it requested by the Planning and Zoning Commission or by the Village
For
Board?
the daycare, the
Yes.
parking study,
And again, I want to put you on the spot.
I can't recall if it was offered by the petitioner at the time of the daycare or if it was requested. It was discussed in this case at the Planning Commission meeting, and the commissioners did decide that it was not necessary. Or they did not feel it was necessary
And for
on the
clarity, it
site.
seems like we're jumping back and forth between parking study and traffic study.
I'm sorry, the traffic study is what I meant to say, if I didn't say that. It's my understanding a traffic study was a part of the daycare application. I'm trying to determine if it was required. I'm hearing it wasn't required, but was it requested by the Planning and Zoning Commission or the Village Board, or did the applicant just on their own decide to do it? I guess a search of the packet, going back and searching at the packet, we can get that answer for the board. And then that was just a question I had, trying to address a common question from people in the audience. And thank you for clarifying parking versus traffic study.
I have a question
Yes.
for, in terms of the intersection at 17th and Maple. So the concerns are cutting through the neighborhood on Roach, I guess. I'm not quite sure. Would the improvements that are being contemplated at 17th and Maple address?
No, well, no. The genesis or the origins of why we were doing a parking study did not have to do with cut through at Roach. It was, there's no dedicated left turn lane in any of the legs of the intersection. So the real problem is traffic on going eastbound or westbound on 31st Street, turning left. Where we're seeing accidents are when they're turning left in either direction, they're hitting through traffic coming through on the other lane.
Right.
And that's what we're looking at. And the challenge is, and as everybody knows, there's no right of way. To put a dedicated left turn lane in any of these legs, you need right of way. And where are you gonna get that right of way from? Either the gas stations on either side of the street or the bank in LaGrange Park. And none of those options have been real popular yet. And so it's a challenge.
And it's not, and again, you know where I live, this is from experience, very firsthand experience. It's not just traffic going east and west on 31st Street. As people approach the intersection of Maple and 31st Street going southbound, they know the reputation for the light taking a long time. They know the danger of trying to turn left. So everything starting from when you pass the Forest Preserve, 26, 27, 28, 29th, Roach, Bartlett, 30th, those become, when someone approaches the light as they're heading south on 31st, they turn, if they turn down 30th, which again I'm very familiar with, they can go all the way through to Prairie. There's theoretically stop signs where they're supposed to stop at 30th and Park and Sunnyside and Park, but that's a very common cut through to avoid that they do that. And I think that happens on Roach also. I think it's more prevalent as you get closer to Maple and 31st. If they see the light is changing or there's a backup, they will turn down those side streets and go that way. I think also some of the concern is that people are not going to, if you turn off at 31st onto Park to go into the dispensary, you're not going to want to go back to 31st and Maple. You will drive north on Park and go through the residential neighborhood to Roach or 30th or one of the other streets to get over to 17th if you're going to another town. There's cars, the really smart people, turn to avoid Maple and 31st Street, turn down Sunnyside and go extremely fast down Sunnyside along the woods and Forest View and cut all the way down to 28th, and you avoid everything. But I think it's not
you're just
just
giving
Maple and
direction.
31st. It's
Not sure the way that
I have,
It sounds like we're outside of the dispensary and any business on there, that there is a big issue in this neighborhood that even separately needs to be addressed, and would love to.
Yeah, I would say
um,
that, I agree that that's, but I think that that's also independent of whatever business happens to
Right.
go in
Correct.
this space.
So separate
sure.
issue
I
that we
I
need
was just
deal
trying to
with.
clarify. There was questions
Not-
about it. I'm trying to clarify, so.
And I'm
But
not
just
saying we
not to
shouldn't
pinpoint it
discuss
towards
it.
that particular business, but just in general, any successful business that people want to get to are gonna make the same choices in terms of their routes. So whether there's increased patrol, whether there's some signage and some other things that go up and around there in terms of the flow of that traffic is something that we need to talk more about.
Yeah, to Trustee Cahooli's point, I mean, this is a state route. This is a major corridor, right? It connects over to the zoo. There is, and I believe there are congestion and traffic management issues in the area as to whether or not this particular business is gonna fundamentally change that dynamic and change that traffic mix in a significant way. I don't think we have clear evidence that based on how this business operates, that it's gonna change these larger factors that are in play here.
But I think certainly we would be adding to it, or this business would be adding to it. This business relies on volume. If the average customer is in there, 6 to 8 minutes, I think it was, it's a lot of turnover and people coming through there. And they're gonna park in the new lot we put in. More likely, they're gonna park on the angle parking right next to the building. If they're parking there, I don't see them doing a U-turn to come back to 31st. They're going to go to Roach or to 30th or somewhere that way. We are adding a lot of cars to it with this. There was comments about, some other medical uses or a martial arts place. I mean, picture a use like that, how much traffic are you having with that? So whatever business goes in there, it is gonna have an effect on how much traffic is coming through there. And I think most of this discussion should come back to this particular location. We heard a lot of comments from residents against the project for different reasons. Some of them weren't against necessarily just this location. They might have been against all locations maybe, but we're past that point. We approved one, and some of the comments we heard tonight, that seems like that's still out there, wherever, Prairie and Ogden ends up. We don't know that. It could be nothing. It could turn into one. We don't know that. We did approve that. So we're past the point of, do we agree with, dispensaries in Brookfield? But it comes back to this particular location. It's basically in the middle of a residential neighborhood with residential units up top, which is interesting that the applicant is going to have first refusal on who has those apartments. So the applicant might end up having those. Maybe that alleviates some parking. I don't know. I don't know what that all means. But if we look at this location with residential around it, the parking certainly isn't going to get better with this. It's not going to, the parking with any business that goes in there will be more parking and traffic, will be more parking and traffic than no business at all. But the idea just that LaGrange doesn't have this, Western Springs doesn't have it, LaGrange Park doesn't have it, Hinsdale doesn't have it, that's an opportunity for us. Is it really an opportunity for us? Is that what we want? When you have 7 or 8 other dispensaries within a few miles?
I have,
Please.
I have a couple more questions. What is the history of this? Maybe this is a question for David. What is the history of the uses in this building?
It was
Pharmacy?
before that, here. It was a pharmacy when I was a kid. It was a pharmacy, and there was doctor's offices in the east. and then it was Brook Park Pharmacy. So it was the western building was a pharmacy. There was doctors and medical offices in the eastern offices, and my pediatrician was actually in that office at one point. And then it became, I believe after that, it was vacant for some period of time, but it was Knight's Antiques, which was allegedly an antique, but a secondhand resale store.
And then I also was curious if we've heard from any of the other businesses in that area, whether it's the ice cream shop or liquor store, or anything from them about this use.
The proposed use? No, staff hasn't heard anything from the businesses themselves.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'll just say this as well. I can recognize the concern about the neighborhood and changing the character of the neighborhood. I live off of Ogden Avenue on 4100 Raymond. There's a vape shop with very bright lights right on the corner. And Galloping Ghost, there are all sorts of parking issues. I understand it's Ogden, it's different than 31st. But I think that the nature of having businesses come to Brookfield and make I'm just saying, I don't know that it's necessarily always going to be a worst case scenario. And we've made a community in our neighborhood, despite living so close to Ogden and having those parking issues. Is it inconvenient? Yes. But I also think there are benefits to a dispensary. So just wanted to note that quick. Thank you.
Yeah, on that point, the site where we have approved a special use permit, I mean, there's a residence, single-family home right across the alley. There's several others across the street, down the block. There's Eller Park, the largest park in the village. It's 2 blocks away. Lincoln Elementary is also 2 blocks away. And we unanimously, this was before my time, but approved the special use at that site. I understand the traffic counts are higher on Ogden and the business mix is different on Ogden, but the proximity to residents and the impact on those residents, I don't think is fundamentally different on Ogden than it would be at the site on 31st Street.
I just have some thoughts around the diagonal parking too, because it does seem like we don't have a lot of places to have parking in Brookfield, and all of the places where we're looking at Energize Ogden, where we're looking to add parking, is adding more diagonal parking where you're backing out and people could be turning down that street. So it feels like that is the common way that people get in and out of most businesses around us. It's very uncommon to have an actual parking lot to go in, and so I think most people are trying to be safe when backing out of spaces or turning onto a street that has that. But it does feel like that's on your street. There's diagonal parking by Galloping Ghost and all down that corridor. So does a traffic study needed? I'm not quite sure, but it does feel like that is a common practice for how we add additional parking for businesses, is through diagonal parking straight off of a major road.
I do think I would like, on the topic of the traffic and the parking, I think that I would like to respectfully request staff to perhaps look at the parking on that block. I know that as we've done the Energize Ogden plans, there has been a setback from the street to those parking spaces, so that when you're making that turn, you're less likely to run into somebody who's backing around that corner. And I know that this particular building is very close to the street and cuts down that sight line. So I think that it would be useful for us to have a conversation with our engineers and see if that is a good standard at the distance between those parking spaces and 31st Street, or perhaps if it would be useful to take those parking spaces and put them on the other side of Park Avenue, so that you're not potentially turning into someone who's backing out from 31st Street. If those are potentially options that could make that block safer, just in general, independent of this use.
We can certainly do that. One thing that Libby and I were just talking, I'm not sure why these are angled the way they are. If they were perpendicular, I get the concern that the way they're configured now, it forces you, when you're backing out, you're gonna back out and go north on Park. That's the only way you can do it. If they were perpendicular, meaning 90 degrees, you can go either way. Now, your issue is a different issue that we can absolutely have Hancock or somebody
And
look at.
additionally, if those parking spaces were on the other side of Park Avenue, they'd be facing the other direction, so people who were parking there would go back out onto 31st Street and exit on 31st Street instead of through the neighborhood, which would alleviate one of the resident concerns that we've heard tonight.
Just eyeballing it, I think what the engineers will say, by putting the parking spots on the west side of the street, you're jogging the right-of-way. So in other words, the drive lane on Park, north of the alley, would be, you'd be adjusting it.
It's possible, but the way I'm seeing it, I'm not sure that I agree with that, but I would love for the engineers to take a look.
Yeah, Trustee Hennick's point, which I never really thought, it's good, because, yeah, you're adjusting the traffic lane, but if you're eliminating the angled parking, the traffic lane would basically move, you would have a freer traffic lane going that way. It is a difficult intersection to turn on or off of 31st Street onto. I'm just afraid if the parking was on the other side of Park, and you want them to come out to 31st Street, the only way they're gonna get to those spaces is if they come through the neighborhood to get facing south on Park to 31st Street. Otherwise, they're doing a U-turn to get to those spaces. I like the idea, and I guess I'd like it to be explored. But I guess let's just make it clear what direction we're giving. I guess, do we want Hancock Engineering to look at this, or more of a staff?
I think that would be wise.
Okay.
We can certainly do that.
Dan O'Malley ran out earlier, so. Well, does the board agree with that?
Yeah, I think that's a common concern that I heard more than shouldn't there be a cannabis dispensary in Brookfield? Is this location and some safety around this particular location, especially the spot. So I'd love to learn a little bit more if that could be solved, whether it's this business or another business. It seems like it's always been an issue and has continued to be an issue, so why not address it?
Yeah, I agree. It sounds like a foundational issue for this property that needs to have some more investigation done on this, so we know.
To be clear, are we talking about the design of the angled parking, and is that what we would be asking Hancock to study further? Not
That was my
necessarily the
request.
number of parking spaces, you're talking about the design and the turning, right?
But if the change in design would eliminate any spaces as a recommendation, I thought maybe where Trustee Hendricks was first going, that maybe those first couple spaces as you come off of, if you're going westbound on 31st turning onto Park, maybe the first couple of spaces would need to be eliminated. Tim's idea of 90-degree parking, I think, still is a possibility. I think it's a long, whatever business goes in here, I think someone brought up the point, it's something we should probably look at for this property going forward.
We have addressed the parking concern about this site to some degree with the addition of the public parking lot across the street. Because that was the largest concern about the daycare, and that didn't exist, and now it does.
And that was, I agree with it, that was when we talked about the other potential uses, when the other potential uses were denied, that parking lot didn't exist. So in terms of the character of the neighborhood and what might fit there, that parking lot is brand new, and I walk by it every day, I see it's getting different use and new use, and we just did pass regulations where it's meant to be 2-hour parking. It's not meant to be, for the employees of any of the businesses, the beauty shops or the ice cream shop or any of those shops along there, and I think that's what it's being used for. I see it being used for customers for the beauty shops, customers for the ice cream place, and believe it or not, people are still getting ice cream all the way through the winter, which is, so I think that's there. Libby, I have a question, and I've been here forever, and I just should know all this, but can you explain to me, this district that they're applying for is C4, correct?
Correct.
And the Ogden Avenue corridor is what district?
Oh, I don't have it offhand.
I think it's
But this one's
C1.
C4 Local Retail District.
Okay.
What is it?
I think it's
C1.
Okay, so what is C4, what is local, I guess, the point was raised earlier about that it's more local businesses where C1 is meant for customers from farther away. Is that part of the distinction?
They're both commercial corridors, and as you're aware, we do have revisions to our zoning code that would make them both commercial corridors. The retail district distinction is that it's more for local retail, but they are both commercial corridors.
No, I'm aware they're both commercial because they're C, but I mean, there's some distinction now, C4, that it's more local.
A local retail district.
Local retail,
correct.
to attract local, whereas the C1 is, what's the?
More of a, it's more of a commercial pass-through.
Pass-through, okay. Okay, so is there, what, I'm looking, again, as always, you hate this word, I'm looking for some consensus. We want Hancock Engineering to look at this? Is there enough of you there saying yes? Trustee? Yes?
I would say so, but I'm, for myself, I wouldn't hold up the
Okay.
discussion of this
Okay.
special use.
I agree, yeah.
Yeah, I don't need it. It's not contingent.
Okay, so I'm unclear, so you want it for a future use, or just, you don't want to hear it before you make a decision on this, or?
I would just like to hear, to have that looked at, because we have heard so much tonight and in the past and over the years that this is a problem here. So I think that it would be wise of us to look at it. I don't think that we need to, like I said, for myself, I don't think that we need to hold up this case for that.
I agree.
So after this is approved, you want a reply from Hancock? I guess I'm really trying to figure out what the ask is, because when do you want Hancock Engineering to come back to us?
Whenever they get to it.
You're saying could be-
Whenever
it
we,
could be at the same
whenever
time.
they can.
Yeah.
Sure, same time would be great.
Okay.
I mean, maybe there's potential that Hancock could complete an initial study in the coming weeks.
If the board direction is to put this on the agenda in 2 weeks, I will have a meeting with Hancock tomorrow, and we'll come to that meeting, to the village board meeting, ready to hear Hancock's preliminary review of it. This is not a long term.
Okay.
Right, we're talking about the design of a
Pretty
handful
quick,
of spaces.
yeah.
And then in terms of my question about, I mean, I can't search the packet now. I mean, in terms of is the traffic study that was done for,
We'll have that answer too in 2 weeks.
whether it was done.
What was the origins of it? Why, was it a
Okay.
requirement? Did they just do it?
Okay,
I
why
don't
was it
know.
asked for there? Okay. Okay. Other questions or comments are asked of the board right now?
I do think we should consider the revenue impacts of the business. I'm not saying that it should by any means be the only factor or the driving factor in the decision, but the projection of the potential to generate more than $200,000 annually in sales tax revenue would make it by far, I believe, the highest sales tax generator in the community, including the zoo. We talk all the time at this board about the need to relieve pressure on property taxes, which are 40% of our revenue right now. We need businesses that can generate significant sales tax revenue. We've talked about a lot of the businesses that are coming into the community, and they are critical to our community, and they're enriching it in any number of ways for my family and for many others. But many of them are not high sales tax generators. So they're not adding to our revenue in a way that can relieve pressure on property taxes, which I know for myself and for many other families is a huge affordability factor. So I just think we need to consider that among the many other factors that were discussed tonight.
And the projections that we were given from the applicant, do those match what we see with the state trend in terms of, because we currently get a share of the statewide share of cannabis sales. Is that correct, Doug?
Correct.
So there's a pool of all the state cannabis sales in the whole state, and we get a percentage of that whether we have a dispensary or not, correct? And I don't want to put you on the spot, if you can get it for us, has there been a trend where it's increasing? I mean, that alcohol sales have gone down and cannabis sales statewide have started to go higher and higher?
So Trustee Ketchmark asked me to put together a little bit of financial information on the receipts that we get from the state for this per capita. And it's basically averaged about $2,300 for the last 3 years. It hasn't fluctuated that much, but I have not tracked alcohol sales.
And but just so I'm clear, so I didn't realize we had those figures. So the cannabis receipts that we've received, which is a percentage of the statewide cannabis sales, have been steady for 3 years?
Correct. It's averaged around what, 27,000 to 30,000
per year.
Per year, correct.
For the past 3 years, okay.
each year.
Staff did reach out. The closest dispensary is in Riverside at the corner of Harlem and at the north end of their village limits. And the state will not disclose or allow Riverside to disclose exactly what their sales tax is on a single source basis. But when I shared with staff over there the projections of this proposed store based on their projections, it's in the ballpark of what Riverside indicates they're getting. So it was consistent with
And the future projections and future growth, or?
the future, no, the projections that this applicant has provided for the next couple of years.
But I mean,
I'm saying based on current, the Riverside dispensary's been open for a few years, and so based on a full year operating history, again, I don't know what their exact sales tax is, but it's in the vicinity of what they're suggesting.
but if I mean, the future projections for income from this go up over the next couple of years based on the premise that alcohol consumption's going down and that people will come from neighboring towns here and it will increase to get us to the figures that we've been given.
Well, I'll let them speak to that, but I believe the reason 26 was lower was not a full year. And I think it ramped up with a full year of operation in 27. What other assumptions they made after that is up to them.
And those were conservative, and they're certainly under Starbucks numbers, for sure. We took a pretty conservative line on that.
I do recall reading an article in the Illinois Municipal Review that pretty much had, cannabis sales being somewhat stagnant for the next few years, saying that maybe we have topped out from 20 or 21 when it first started. I mean, obviously, you start from 0 and it skyrockets up, but the last 3-4 years have been pretty stable in that. So back to my comments from earlier, are we growing the market or not? I mean, they didn't seem to think we were. So we're just cutting that same pizza up into smaller pieces, it seems.
Okay.
Tim, you mentioned some conversations with Riverside, and I'm curious, have there been conversations with Riverside and other communities about the safety issue and the prevalence of police activity and reported incidents in these surrounding areas?
Yes, we've talked to several towns, Riverside, Berwyn. I talked to Lombard that has 1, and they're gonna have 2, and there has been 0 instances of any issues. I think in Riverside's case, they may have had a call the day of the grand opening due to, I think, loud music, but they've not had one since. So there's been 0 negative police interactions in the towns we've talked to.
And that was the same with Berwyn as well, although theirs is newer.
All right, is there any other information the board wants before, we'll put this up in 2 weeks. Do you want it on the board agenda as for a possible vote? Or is that,
2 weeks?
or do you want longer than 2 weeks? That night, there were some things on tonight's agenda that got pushed to that meeting 2 weeks from now. I believe we're gonna have the Grand Boulevard presentations and things. I'm just trying to, first of all, is everyone planning on being here 2 weeks from tonight? Trustee Naramatsu will be out of town, but it will be for work. You could possibly join by Zoom, or no?
Perhaps.
Okay.
I wouldn't mind putting it on an agenda that is lighter to give it enough time for discussion.
Okay.
So if it needs to be 4 weeks from now,
I always ask this because I know things just happen, but is there anyone having a planned missed meeting in March?
February?
You mean
February?
Well, because the second meeting in February, because the first meeting, first meeting in February. Is there anyone that plans on missing the first meeting in February?
No.
That is February 9th. So that's the next meeting where we believe we'd have a full attendance board. Do you want February 9th or February 23rd?
9th, the 9th.
February 9th. All right, let's put it up on the board agenda for February 9th. If anything changes and stuff happens, we go from there. That'll give us a chance to get some of this information, so, okay? And again, I'm not cutting off conversation now. If you want to talk about this, so we could move on to some of the other items and then discuss this again in February. Again, on the board, we still have the opportunity to discuss it, so are we ready to move on from this for now?
I think we are. I don't have any additional questions. Thank you for all of the thoroughness and all of the comments everyone made.
Yes, thank you for coming out, and everyone's welcome to stay. We have a lot more fun topics coming up.
Yeah.
I'm
There's
serious.
still more.
It's-
I know, right? It's a popular place.
Anybody?
Nobody?
I'll give a minute to clear
No
out
one wants
this.
to talk about tacos?
Parking for tacos.
What's that?
Oh, God, no. I'm a landscape architect.
All right, even though, we're going to keep moving here. The next item up is a discussion of a parking variation from section 62-290. I'm just asking if anyone's leaving, if you want to have conversations, if you could have them outside, because we got a long night ahead of us. All right, I tried. Discussion of a parking variation from section 62.290 to reduce the required number of parking spaces from 37 to 15 for 9132 31st Street. Libby, I'm just going to turn it over. We have a staff memo. There's a Planning and Zoning Commission hearing. There was a recommendation.
Yes.
Count on you and Trustee Hendricks to give us anything we need beyond.
Yes, this is, and I don't see the petitioners here, but this was a parking variance at 9132 31st Street. It's 12,500 square foot property. The property has 15 parking spaces. It would require 37 parking spaces. That is Taquero El Grande. The owners of the restaurant purchased the building, and they've expanded into the building. And they require additional parking. That's also the space where Maywood Appliance is, and Maywood Appliance has now downsized with potentially moving out, depending on any additional variances. So you can see the subject site here with the parking. You have the site plan. We have the existing restaurant plan, which is relatively small footprint, and then we have the proposed expanded restaurant, which is moving into that Maywood Appliance section. So public parking lot is available just down the street. It's about, I think, 300 or so feet to the public parking lot, so that is an available space for parking. You're familiar with the standards for variations, so for the parking variation. Oh, and with that, I will open it to any questions.
Trustee Hendricks, anything you want to add?
Sure.
Oh, I'm
yeah.
sorry, the Plan Commission did recommend approving it, the most important part. I'm sorry.
They did. So there was discussion about this is a successful business. We love having it in our community. They want to expand. They, for one thing, I think that the bathrooms they felt were substandard, and they'll be able to make it a better experience for the patrons in the future. They have purchased this building and are renovating. So the concerns that the Plan Commission had were the trucks that we believe belong to Maywood Appliance that are very often parked there and taking up some of those parking spaces, as well as there was a concern that perhaps the repair shop that is adjacent is using some of those parking spaces as well for inoperable vehicles, which makes it much more difficult to park in this area. So there were requests that now that they are the Taqueria El Grande, the petitioner is the owner of this building, that they have some conversations with Maywood Appliance. Perhaps I don't know if we could put conditions on there that truck parking not be used there. Other questions that the Plan Commission had were about employee parking. The petitioner did say that they encourage all of their employees to park not in this lot. They park on the streets nearby. I don't believe that has caused any undue congestion on the streets nearby. We certainly didn't hear anything from the neighbors on this particular site. I wanted to ask, Libby, do we know if the parking lot as it is now meets our code for size of the drive aisle for the size of the spaces?
That I'm not sure if it does.
Okay. Could we consider making that a condition?
We can certainly add that in there.
That, and
For
maybe
the
that it
drive
be
aisle.
restriped?
That is one of my main concerns pulling into that lot, is that there's trucks coming out way past the parking space. And so it's very challenging to pull in or out of the lot or see anyone backing out of a space because the trucks that are there are sticking like 4 feet or so past the stripes.
Yeah, and Trustee Hendricks, I don't really understand, 'cause there's only so much space in that parking lot. I don't know what they can do. I don't see any way they could restripe the spots to make a
Sorry,
wider
two
drive
separate,
aisle.
two separate questions. Whether the parking spaces and the drive aisle already were substandard or not, if they already meet our code, which Libby said she is unsure. But the other question is if we could make it a condition that they restripe the lot so that it is clear where those parking spaces are.
I also have a question about the parking along the fence and if those are spots, or if people just are parking along the fence because there's nowhere else to go.
At the west end of
At
it?
the west side? Are those striped parking spaces? I think you have it in the, if you look straight on, well, actually, you can see it there, that there's parking right along where it says 9128. That there's cars kind of in the driveway as you're coming in, they're parked along the fence line. I don't know if those are considered part of the spots.
Trucks usually park
No, the trucks are parked
west end?
on the west end. I'm talking about the east end, along where the red line is.
Oh, yeah, there's always cars parked there.
Uh-huh.
Are you saying it's illegal?
Yeah.
I'm sure it's not.
Are those striped spaces? I don't know.
I don't
I'm just
know
wondering if
those are
that's in
striped.
consideration.
I am sure there are illegal spots, but people park there all the time. Usually when people are running in to get takeout, they park there. I see it happen all the time.
Yep,
I'm
okay,
sure
but those
they're-
aren't
I'm
part
sure
of
they're
the
not striped.
parking count?
That wasn't part of the parking count. No.
Anytime we have a new business, there's always big discussion about where employees are parking, but I'm not hearing that for that, like, is that not a?
Well, that's, the petitioner said that they already don't park on site. They
So
park
where?
in the neighborhoods.
They park in the neighborhoods, okay.
Right. The biggest problem with the parking was some of the Maywood Appliance parking. And the new owners have discussed it with Maywood Appliance because they know that it's an issue with the extra trucks that are parked there. So we can certainly add any conditions that you're inclined to add.
So in the surrounding neighborhoods, there's no restrictions on timing for those employees to park there?
I mean, the closest place they probably park is the 3100 block of Elm. And I'm not aware of the restrictions being, any restrictions being on the 3100 block Elm, because that's one way going south. So that would be the closest place for them to park and walk across the street. I do know that area and 3100 block of Park, especially close to 31st Street, is pretty heavily parked. Some of the people that live in the apartments just east of the restaurant park there overnight and stuff on the 3100 block of Park, so I don't think there's any restrictions for there. When I used to live on the 3100 block of Oak, there actually was a restriction on my block. Again, that was one way facing south. Back when it was now the Elks Lodge, used to be Brunetti's. There was a huge restaurant there, and my block was resident-only parking 24/7 for that exact reason, to prevent employees or customers from the restaurant parking on the 3100 block of Oak. But I don't think there's any restrictions on the 3100 block of Elm.
Libby, you said there's been conversations with Maywood Appliance. Can we, is there an alternative to them parking those trucks there for the time that they're continuing to operate? I mean, it seems like that's the biggest issue, right? Is these large trucks taking up space and then making it difficult for people to navigate the lot? Can we just get them
To move
them?
altogether.
Or they're parking in the back
Yeah.
that we're missing?
There's a
I don't
fence
know about
blocking the alley, it looks
additional
like.
parking in the back. I know that they, prior to the PZC and then also after, they indicated that they've talked to them. Their Maywood Appliance is still under a lease. So eventually they, Tequila El Grande would like to take over that space, but right now that's not an option. So they've been discussing not having those trucks parked there. And that's about the extent of it.
I mean, if you look at page 15 of 42 of the packet, the parking, I mean, it's page 15 of 42, there's like a diagram of what I believe they show are the appropriate parking spaces. So there's the handicap space right in front of the restaurant, and there's spaces all along the front, but, I know Trustee Hendricks said, but the trucks, the large trucks that park in those spaces and along that spot take away those spaces on the west. I mean, can we enforce those improper parking in a private parking lot like that, or the police, or?
That would be-
We could only enforce parking regulations in a private lot if we have an agreement with them.
Okay.
If they are the owner, can they make a 2-hour parking
They
limit
can.
and then call towing? Like
They,
can make
they
their own
can enforce that,
regulations?
yeah, they can implement those kind of restrictions.
We've certainly in the past had cases where we've put conditions on to have signage for employee parking. I wonder if we could, I think I would like to see a condition that this not be truck parking, and I don't know how you label those particular trucks versus a pickup truck in order to make that possible, but I would like to see those trucks. I would like to see box trucks not parked in these spaces, and to be able to ensure that we're not having inoperable parking, inoperable cars
Don't they
sitting
need
there.
like a delivery, like pickup, like they need a loading zone though? And
Isn't that in the back?
Is it in the back? I don't see
That was
that
my,
in here.
it looks like there's a fence blocking, they can't, is that, can they not use the alley for
I
some
don't,
reason?
I don't,
think
I
we might
believe all the
need at
parking's through the
least
When-
front.
When I drove by this afternoon, I think there were 3 or 4 of those out there.
In the back?
No, in front.
They're
Oh, yeah,
always-
they're all in
Are they
front.
using those?
All at once, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. If they're inoperable, we can attack that via zoning code. We cannot we cannot create, this is not village, these aren't public parking spots, so we can't, I don't believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Village Attorney, but we can't sign certain spots and say no trucks can park there, because that's not.
But
our
maybe the
parking.
landlord can deal with that now.
Yeah,
Do
no,
that.
I agree. I'm in this plaza all the time. It's a zoo, no pun intended.
We've
but
learned
you
Tim
just-
is a frequent customer.
You just know, but you know they're going in,
For Maytown,
and
for tacos.
Oh, think
I
it's
may
the
or may, I
tacos.
may or may not have parked along that fence line before.
Oh.
I'm not saying I have, I'm not saying I have, but I'm saying people do. But
My
it's,
experience is those box trucks they're not inoperable. I do see them
Yeah,
move,
they're-
I do see them unloading. I don't think there's any unloading in the back. My concern.
I think
and I-
Commissioner, I think Commissioner Weber was talking about separate cars being parked that were inoperable in that lot.
Right, but I think someone asked if they use all those trucks at the same time, or are they inoperable?
Okay.
If they are in use, my concern is what restrictions do we have to prevent them from, okay, Maywood Appliance is not gonna park those in that lot during the day, they're gonna park them on Park and Roach where the body shop now parks cars during the day, so they, do we have any restriction on?
Is it a condition of the variance? Is that what you're asking?
No, I mean, because I think Trustee Hendricks is on the right track of saying the applicant, do they own the whole plaza now?
Yes.
Okay.
Is,
Yeah, they can
are
do
we
that.
able, and this might be an Adam question, are we able to put the condition to restrict it to no box trucks in the parking? As a condition to the parking variance?
I'll look on the legality of that and work
Okay.
with the staff on that for
Okay.
board presentation.
It's probably more of a class, are those considered Class B, Class C? I mean, it's more of, as opposed to calling it a box truck, there's probably like,
Right, a
trucks
class
bigger than a class.
classification for,
Class whatever, but we could give you pictures of what the trucks are. We know what we don't want parked there because they do take up the spaces and aisles, and if the applicant, can we make the applicant say, you have to put up signs? And then do we, I think it's in their best interest to enforce them.
It seems like we should continue to work with the applicant and whatever tools we have to try to relocate those trucks in a way that Maytag is not, in opposition to, but it also doesn't seem like that should get in the way of us, granting the variance and letting the business continue to grow and expand.
I guess I'm confused as to, they don't seem to think that they have a big parking issue if they're asking for this variance, right?
no, they know they have a parking issue with Maywood Appliance with the trucks
Right.
being there, like, that's
So-
always an issue.
So it's in their best interest to figure
But
that
doesn't
out. So I'm not sure why we need to.
Doesn't this become a moot point if
They move
the
that.
restaurant's expanding, Maywood's either disappearing or they're becoming smaller, so their need for trucks.
Is gonna be less, correct, correct.
And there's a parking lot, right, down the street, like, it's not
Yeah.
really a
300 feet
parking
away.
issue,
Look
right?
at
This is
that.
what we've discussed before. It's not really a parking
Look at
issue.
that.
This is a place that I walk to instead of parking illegally.
There you go.
Tim.
Nice. I'm gonna park my car at your driveway, and I'm gonna walk.
Come on
to
over.
my
Commuter
taco.
parking is later on the agenda.
So what do we want to, are we looking to put a condition upon approval of the variation that there's be some action, or we just want to try and let them sort it out and with our help?
I don't need a
I
condition.
think we
but-
help them
Mhm.
work it out together.
Agreed.
By putting a condition.
okay with that. And we don't actually know if we're allowed to put that.
Let's
condition.
understand the legality of the condition.
All right, so we want to put this up in 2 weeks, and then I guess if Adam could, like, I guess give us the option of, could we put a restriction on it that said, what do we, if Adam comes back and says, yes, we could put a restriction on the variation that says that no Class C trucks are allowed to park in that lot, that the owner require that as part of the variation?
And if this is up in 2 weeks, staff will meet with the
We'll
applicant,
meet
the
with them.
petitioner, and I think we're happy they're expanding, right? I mean, we want this restaurant to expand. And I think obviously they want to expand, so I think it'll be a pretty easy conversation. They may have solutions that we don't even.
But I wouldn't assume that because Maywood Appliance is shrinking, that they're not gonna wanna park those trucks there. They don't wanna park them in Maywood, they park them there, and then I'm afraid they're gonna end up on the side streets or and then we're gonna have the problems there, so.
Could I reiterate the request that we have a condition to restripe the lot?
Yes. Is everyone in favor of that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And we can do that, absolutely, right?
Yes.
I'll look into it, but that does not sound like there's any issues, so.
I am curious too, now that they, just like a separate question, sorry if this is a sidebar, but since they have owned the property now, are they aware of the PIP grant or have been talked to about that, to be able to, if they wanted to make signage or other improvements
That's
since
not
they're
available on
expanding?
31st
Not a
Street.
TIF
Right,
district.
that's not in a TIF
TIF district.
So we haven't talked to them.
And we
That's
shouldn't, because we don't have funds for it.
Okay, never mind. Don't tell them about that.
Maybe someday.
Okay, so we'll bring that back in 2 weeks with the parking, whatever, if Adam says we are allowed to do the striping, which I believe we are, and then he gives options on whether we can require them to restrict no appropriate truck parking in there. Okay? We'll put that up for 2 weeks. All right, moving on, discussion of a potential French Market in the Eight Corners Business District Phase 1 pilot program. Again, Libby, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, I'll keep it short. This is very exciting. We've gotten overwhelming support by the businesses there. We took it to the Economic Development Commission to talk about the option of doing a French market, French-style outdoor market, which has specialty foods, artisan goods, flowers, and other specialty items. So a little different than a farmer's market. It would be open 4 to 7 on Fridays. It's a pilot concept that we're looking to test out this summer with 6 summer market days. And it would be the Friday before the summer concert, so we're looking to kind of have a space that people can go to, visit the shops, do a little French market, and then come to the music in the park. So this is where it would be at the Eight Corners, right up and down Broadway, which would be closed on both sides to accommodate. Benefits of it, offers unique experience. There's a few other communities that have the French market. It seems to be very popular. It's something new to Brookfield, kind of elevates that area and drives more foot traffic there. It appeals to small businesses and it drives business to the existing businesses. So those businesses there have been very excited about it. It enhances our community calendar, provides opportunities for local musicians, especially now with Phase 2 and that courtyard being done. We're in the process right now of securing different artists. Noah's been instrumental in that, so we can have music there. So the idea would be that there would be someone performing or some music, just during those hours, and then everyone can go to an actual concert and enjoy themselves and stay within the community. It supports retail incubator shops, and overall, it's just supporting economic growth in that Eight Corners area. Proposed market layout is we would have Broadway with street closures. We're looking at about 40-plus vendors. The fee for the vendors would be $50 per 10 by 10 space, $100 for mobile food vendors. And the dates that we had looked at for the Phase 1 are June 12th, 19th, July 10th, 17th, and 19th, and then August 7th. And those are specific dates so the market can end before school starts, because then we start running into closing the street and what the traffic looks like there. And we have consulted with both PD and fire on what are the best dates for that. So those seem to have worked the best. We're looking to have an external consultant. We've been working with the chamber on that, specifically with Gina Schernow, and we're looking for them to assist with applications, logistics, and the operations of it to kind of alleviate some of that. Staff is going to oversee the market as a whole, but we would have an external consultant through the chamber, at least for now, to assist us with that and kind of running it. And we're looking to tap into some of the existing farmers market vendors that might be interested in the French market. And Gina's already reached out to them. A number of them have already shown some interest in it. So that's very exciting.
Do you mean the 24th, July 24th? The 19th is not a Friday?
Oh, yes, yes. Let me make sure it's that following July. I apologize for that. The 10th, 17th, and 24th, correct. The consultant from the chamber, they're looking for $1,000 per event. That covers their costs for that, and that seems to be the going rate. Eight Corners support, business support, these are just some of the testimonials that the businesses that have reached back out to us have said. So they've been overwhelmingly in favor of it because they're open during that time, and it'll drive some more business to them since it is on a Friday. And then other French market communities, we've got Western Springs, Wheaton has one, Roselle has them, Lyle, so these are specific French markets. They're also called other things, but these are ones that we looked at specific that had kind of the artisan bend to it. And they're generally from May through to September. We're looking to do the pilot program June, July, and August.
What are those daily costs again? What do those include?
Oh, the next, so here we're getting into the cost.
Back one.
Oh, back one.
What are those?
Oh, sure. So this is what they charge. They have, Western Springs has produce, flowers, and specialty foods. So it's, they charge $35 and $45 per space.
Oh,
Yeah, per space. Then Wheaton, it looks like theirs is a little higher at $87 for if you're doing flowers. They divide it up by what they're doing, 97 for specialty foods. Retail looks like it's 115. And then Roselle also divides it by the different type of vendor it is. And then we kind of mirror Lyle's because it's just $50 per space. And that seems to match. It seems to be something that's easy to manage. And here we have kind of the financial considerations. We did talk to police. They recommended having a crossing guard because there would be a lot of people there. That's roughly almost $27 an hour for about 3 hours for 8 guards. So a total of $647. Public Works, we talked to Lauren about how much staffing is required for that. That's about $540. Anticipated revenues, we're thinking if we do have 40 vendors, multiplied by 50, that's about $2,000. Food truck fees, we're looking at six food trucks in the area. And then rental fees, that's an additional fee that Gina charges to the vendors. We would split that with the chamber. So if 30 vendors needed additional space and tents, that would be $50 for a total of $1,500. So overall event costs, we're looking at estimated cost per event is about $2,100, rounded up to $2,200, and estimated revenue that we're anticipating is about $3,300. So we would be in the black for that.
Are they required to use the chamber tents, or can they bring their own?
They're not. They can bring their own, but what Gina said is she rents a lot of them for the farmers market, so most of them will use the ones that she has, rather than having to bring them back and forth.
We're talking about different vendors for this than we have at the farmer's market. Right?
Some of them will be the same ones. Yeah, some of them might be the same ones. We're trying to gear this more towards having flowers and kind of artisanal things. But some will absolutely overlap. And she's run that by the vendors for the farmers market. Some of them are very excited so they can have 2 days since they're already here in Brookfield.
I'd just like to see a unique experience too.
Yes. Yeah, we're not looking to have the exact same experience. We want to have a few different ones.
Who is the consultant then? Is it the chamber or is it Gina?
It's Gina through the chamber because she's officially there.
But who are we hiring? The chamber or hiring Gina?
It would be the chamber, and Gina is there. I forget her exact title, but she's their events coordinator.
Oh, she's the events coordinator.
Yeah, she's the events coordinator.
So have we looked at them just running the event? And they run the event just like they run the farmer's market?
Go ahead.
She's paid a salary for that, for running that and other events. So yeah, it is a little interesting.
So we
what
kind
the
of
agreement
started.
would be.
Yeah, we started the conversation with them. She wasn't necessarily looking to take on a French market. We are looking at this as specific economic development for that corridor, so it feeds into the retail incubator spaces. So this is a blend of both, with the village being able to manage it, but outsourcing some of the logistics through GINA. It doesn't necessarily have to be through the chamber down the road, but the summer's just a pilot program.
The EDC talked about the crossing guards. Deputy Chief Mahalik talked about this, that he didn't see us being able to get our crossing guards to do this.
And actually, Sergeant Dell and I managed our group of crossing guards for some time. It is very difficult for us to get our crossing guards to do this on top of their normal school responsibilities. Unfortunately, that group has dwindled, so we're always trying to hire more, but that's why we worked with Libby about it would have to be an outside source.
He talked about maybe Andy Frayne that we've used for something before, or
Yeah,
have we
I'm
pursued
sure
that
we got
anymore?
the quote from, but that's probably weird, because Jim was working with Libby on this. So.
Yeah, these were numbers that Jim had given us, and we didn't want to rely on just volunteer crossing guards either, for safety reasons.
So this would be a consultant providing the crossing guards, not the police?
No, this would be the village through separate
The
consultants.
village
that-
would hire
yeah,
crossing guards.
And essentially $27 an hour for those crossing guards.
Mhm.
That was our last quote from them last year when we were looking at potential outside hire to support our events if necessary.
So you're saying the school crossing guards who definitely make less than that an hour are not interested in?
Yeah, I'm saying we have a difficult time ensuring the school crossing guards will make all their school days for us. So
Right.
I'm worried that stretching them thin to cover other events, we might start, we won't have adequate coverage for the school days.
What do they get paid hourly?
I believe approximately $20 an hour.
How much?
Have we offered
Is it up to
27?
Huh?
Have we offered 27?
27. The problem is for 8, that would be a challenge for ensuring that. And the truth is, because of just the nature of their, many of them are retired and they, have other, whether it's trips and other plans, so it's just.
This is kind of their off-season. School's out for a lot of this, and it'll be
Yeah.
Friday nights as opposed to.
Are there college students? It's a Friday from 4 to 7, correct? Once a month?
Yeah, we certainly can try.
Or not once a month?
3 times a month.
No,
Three.
yeah.
Well, my suggestion is we let the police determine what's appropriate for the crossing guards. And it's not the consultant, it's the village hiring or deciding
Yeah.
who to get crossing guards. And the cost is gonna be approximately the same. Because crossing traffic at 8 corners is somewhat of an art, to put it nicely. I mean, in terms of, I know our crossing guards have some training. I'm all in favor of trying to give high school and college things, but training and liability purposes, I think that sort of plays into it.
Well, on a Friday night at rush hour through there, down Maple.
Can I ask what the shutdown time is? When we do the music on Grand, I know Public Works has got to set it up and Friday morning, and then it's closed till Monday. What is the shutdown time for a Friday 4 to 7?
Well, that's what we talked to DPW and police with. It would have to be shut down at least an hour or two beforehand.
Okay.
So we talked about different options if some of the bollards were placed there ahead of time, and how logistically some of that would work. And then also the time to clean it up afterwards as well.
But basically, sometime Friday afternoon, we would shut it down, and then
Yes.
sometime late Friday night, it's not like it's gonna be closed all day Saturday, because Public Works isn't in on
Right.
Saturday.
Yeah, it would be opened up afterwards. Yeah, so
And
it can't
just to be
stay
clear,
closed the whole night.
Both sides of Broadway?
That's what we were
Or is
looking
it
at.
only the one side?
No, we were
towards the
looking at
shops?
both sides. It could be only one side, depends on how many vendors we get. If it's the 40 vendors that we were initially looking at, it would be both sides.
Okay, and can I just ask, I'm sure you've talked about this, but just for my own clarity.
no, go ahead.
Where, like, when police and fire come out of the fire station,
It,
where do they
nothing
go
would be
next
that,
then?
right, it would
They go
not.
south?
Right, everything would be up to, up to the fire station, so nothing would be.
They would go out Lincoln.
Right, it wouldn't be,
They'd have to go west on Lincoln
correct.
or south on Madison.
Yeah, we can't put anything there, so that has
Right.
to remain open.
I mean, right now, they come down Broadway when they like
Right.
take a left and come, when they want to go north, so they'd have to find another route around to
Around
get
that.
going north.
Correct.
Okay.
I think this could be good to try, see how it works out. I don't know how well we're gonna be able to tie this to the concerts, though. You know, people start showing up at the concert 6:30, they've stopped for food, they're bringing food. If they can stop at the French Market to get food to bring there, maybe.
I would take.
Boy, I don't see them hanging out at the French Market, listening to music and entertainment there, and then coming and sitting in the park till 8:30. I'm hoping we still look to get some vendor at the concerts. I know that's extremely tricky to do, because it's such a short period of time, you know, to have the vendor there. How well this ties into it, I guess it depends on who the vendors are.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it would be exciting to try it, and I'd be interested to check it out for sure. The biggest concern right now would be staff capacity in general. I mean, I think the crossing guard is one aspect of it, but public works, police, community development. If we think about concerts in the park, I know we're avoiding the music on grand dates, although that obviously requires a lot of staff resources. We're managing the Brookfield shops. Is there any concern that taking on this initiative, we couldn't do it to the best of our ability, or could affect some of our other programming, because this time of year there is so much going on? But I mean, I trust you all would not have put this on the agenda if you had that concern.
And that's why we would be collaborating with the chamber, which would be charging us $1,000 per event. So that is for the logistics, getting the applications, running all the vendors through their platform where they keep track of it, and, trying it out this summer. So we would have a full dedicated person, which would be through Gina, to help us run it this summer, see how it works out. Does it tie in with does it tie in with the concerts? Is there an interest in it? What kind of vendors are we getting? And then we can evaluate it. So the goal is to see how these 6 work, evaluate it in September, and see what we need to tweak or change. It would definitely put strain on staff if we were doing it fully, if we did not have an outside consultant. But there are other options as well for an outside consultant.
So I kind of have the same question though, but for Gina.
Yes,
Because
her too.
her farmer's market, the farmer's market has been growing, and there's
Yeah.
always a desire for more and more growth and new and different. And so is this, and that's a question for her, obviously, but can she take this on in the way
We've-
that we wanted
Right, to
to
do
have
it?
it blossom in our first year? And
I've seen her up at the
Right.
Village Hall on Friday nights, setting up for the farmer's market and doing things like this. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that was my concern, but
She has people that she also has on staff as part of that, so that's not just to her. So we've had several meetings with her in terms of what her capacity is for it too. And her feeling was that it would be doable because she's doing a lot of that for the next day anyway. She's already there on a Friday, getting things set up.
here,
So
but
she,
not there.
no, correct, I know, we had that conversation. She thinks with her staff members, she'd be able to handle it.
So
And
is she
again, it's a
managing the
pilot
day
permit.
of on Friday?
She starts getting things ready here for Saturday.
Right, no,
And-
but
yeah.
for this, would she be managing Friday?
Yes, that's the whole point. She would be there managing it, doing the logistics, the applications, and staying there for that.
I
So-
wonder if we have any kind of contingency or backup plan, just in the event that, I'm a little concerned about having all of this rely so heavily upon one person.
Yes, so we do
Um,
have backup consultants
Okay.
in our pocket, but we got to
Okay.
see how this works.
Yes.
And that's part of the reason for the village to spearhead this, because we do have some control where we can maneuver it, we can look at the logistics, we can look at the numbers, we can evaluate the needs and see where we want this to go, if we want it to go anywhere.
I have to say, you've answered all of my questions and concerns to this point. Overall, I'm actually very happy to see this here, because questions aside of whether we're competing with the farmer's market, I've sort of always thought we needed, the idea of a farmer's market is you bring it to your business district, and it activates your business district. It brings people there so that they see, oh, I didn't know that we had a wallpaper place here, right? That's the whole point. And when we have it in the village parking lot, you don't necessarily get that effect on our business community. So I'm really glad to see that this is, the genesis of this. And then
I can tell you that the wallpaper, so Julie, is it Julie?
Julie.
Julie,
Julia.
Julia, thank you. Yes, the people in the room at the meeting today from Broadway were like, Broadway businesses. They were so excited at the prospect of this.
That's great.
So it's directly to what you're saying. They're excited.
Right, and we're also looking for new feeder vendors for the retail shops too. So this year, we had such a great pool of people, but we only had six shops that we've offered to the runners up to do the French market. So we already have a few in the works, and that's kind of the feeder into, they'll get to see the shops are there, what that looks like, because for next year, we're gonna need to fill 6 spots for that, or at least 4 that we're gonna need to fill.
All right, consensus to give it a roll?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you, Libby. Thanks for bringing it forward. Thanks for all the work. Thanks to the EDC. All right, how's everybody doing?
I'm excited about commuter parking.
Oh, boy, let's through it. Nothing like leaving it till 10:15.
Everybody else okay? You okay, or?
I might go refill my water.
All right, does anyone need a short break to refill water or do anything else?
I might just stand for a sec.
I'm gonna go refill.
maybe
we Okay. want a
break.
If you feel the need to continue.
Oh, gosh, there's
Well,
there's
all right,
two.
I'm gonna just take a 2-minute break, so Trustee Hendrick get some water, and anyone else wants it. 2 minutes, though. 2 minutes.
You know what, I will refill. Why not? No one wants to rally with me in the park.
I don't know if I'll be 2 minutes, but I gotta just back up quicker than one of you guys. Clock started that. Who's gonna beat you?
Mike, you're really hanging in there. Thanks. That's so nice. Now you gotta stay till the end. Oh, you're ready? Thanks.
It's warm in here tonight. We had a lot of people in the audience.
I have 2 granola bars if you want.
The same, we need to start filling the drawers with candy. I know. For Pete's sakes.
I have an old. Okay, let's get going.
Did Adam have to, did Adam have to go somewhere, or?
No, trustee Catchmark.
Okay, well, Trustee Ketchmark is not actually present in the room, but I know he read the board. We'll start with the discussion on the next item, which is updated amendments to commuter parking ordinance. Noah, do you want to just go for it?
Absolutely. All right, so this will just be kind of, we'll do a brief summary of what we discussed last month and what has changed since then. So when it comes to fee amendments, I want to make a note that there's a number in the staff memo that's incorrect. The highest we would charge for daily is $3.50, not $4. So just to refresh everyone, our proposals for cost when it comes to daily is $3.50 at Congress Park, and then we would split downtown in 2. So $3 would be behind Village Hall, and $3.50 would be the newly created daily parking along Brookfield Avenue, which we will show in a later slide. Additionally, when it comes to monthly and quarterly, there is the option of resident and non-resident rate. How this would be enforced is through passport parking. Through passport parking, an applicant is allowed to snap a picture of their driver's license or a water bill, for example, and then staff would review the application, approve, and determine their eligibility. What staff is asking right here is, do we support a resident, non-resident rate? I will say, on the one hand, it would allow us to generate extra revenue. On the other hand, it would prevent people from getting approval on the day they purchase a permit. Because if you purchase it at 7 a.m., if it doesn't until 8:30, you're kind of in that limbo. So you're still allowed to buy a daily at Congress and at downtown, but just want to weigh that in. Additionally, there was discussions on whether we want a resident, non-resident rate for daily parking. After speaking with police and due to overall logistics and enforcement, that was not recommended at this time, but there is still value if the board were to support it of having a resident / non-resident rate. So I was wondering what is the consensus from the board on this topic?
Anybody? I just, when you, and again, I always hate to think bad things. I mean, so you said someone could get the resident rate by showing a water bill?
Yeah, so there's proof of residency, and how you would do that is through application, through passport. So that's how you would determine who gets the resident, non-resident rate, is based on existing, comparing our information.
So if I came in and gave you my name and gave you a water bill?
It would be online. It wouldn't be in person.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be like submitting like a photo, kind of what we do with liquor licensing. All of our documentation is now submitted online, so there's no paper.
But it would be for
trail.
a car. It would be for a specific car, or?
Yeah, it's tied to the license plate.
Tied to the license. Does the license plate have to match? I mean, what prevents someone from North Riverside saying, hey, can I borrow your water bill so I can get a vehicle resident? I hate to be so cynical, but is there something that prevents that from happening?
No, that's a valid point. To my knowledge, passport, ties it to your name. So if you're Bill Smith and you're taking, Joe, Johnson, we would be able to track that.
Okay.
So
maybe I'm just used to dealing with bad
it's tied to an account. So like passport, just like if you were to create like a Facebook account or a PayPal, your name is tied to it. So it's not just, I am a license plate number 12345. There is a tie-in because you have payment, at the end with a credit card. So,
So the question basically for the board is, do you favor the daily discount for resident parking, right?
it would only be for monthly and
For
quarterly.
monthly, I'm
Daily
sorry.
is
It's,
it's
okay.
not realistic, just based on the money you would get in addition, plus the staff time to enforce that. It's not privy to staff operations.
I think the concern when we chatted further after the last meeting was that mostly it was, we think, but aren't sure, that it's non-residents coming and parking at Congress due to the express train, and using the daily spots for that. But if we're not doing a
Daily discount?
discount for residents versus non-residents, then I don't know that it addresses that issue, except increasing the fee to $350 instead of $250, which just makes it a little more expensive. I feel like there's still not that much monthly parking. Like, we're reducing maybe we need to go to the next look at the maps, but I feel like we're reducing the amount of monthly parking availability and drastically increasing the amount of daily parking availability. So is it worth it, the extra administrative, to do a resident, non-resident? I'm not totally sure, given the actual number of spaces that are eligible for that.
I think just because of the way commuting patterns are today, the vast majority of customers are going to continue to purchase the daily pass because they're not commuting 5 days a week all month long. So right now, to pay for the monthly pass, you need to be commuting every day a week for 3 or more weeks, right? I just don't think that fits the commute pattern for most residents in the community, so I think people will continue to buy the daily pass. I wish we had the ability to charge a resident and non-resident rate for that daily pass, but it is what it is if the logistics don't allow for that. I would be open to increasing The daily rate, I mean, it is a high-value parking spot, and that allows to a lot of express trains. I know the staff has done research, and the reason they're putting the number here is it's consistent with surrounding communities. But I personally, I would still be comfortable with increasing that daily rate.
And no discount for monthly or quarterly, because you don't think it's gonna pay off, or?
Well, I mean, for the people who there is a discount for monthly or quarterly if you're a daily commuter, and I think that should remain in place. I just think it doesn't apply to most, I shouldn't say most, many people, because of just how they're commuting.
But I would reward the people, certainly, who are doing monthly or quarterly, because they're paying that money up front.
Yep.
And whether they use it or not, they're secure, they're.
I guess that's the piece, though. Do you
Right.
want them to go through the extra step to waiting to get approved versus having the monthly automatically by just paying with
How
their
long
credit
is
card?
the wait, again, the delay?
It would take, I would say realistically a business day, but
So they have to, if they're gonna do it monthly, they have to put some forethought into it, but especially if it's not a significant savings, but. we
I
could
just
make
mean
it
whether
such.
it's the resident, non-resident. If it was just one fee, like in the middle there, 60, then everyone's paying the same rate. You don't have to check a license plate about whether or not they could buy a monthly.
That's the delay, right, because
Yeah.
of the check?
it's the approval within the administrative side. It's not necessarily our CSO out on the street. It would be
Right.
here at Village Hall, that would be the approval.
But if you didn't have a distinction, you wouldn't need the approval, is that?
Yeah, if there's no distinction between resident and non-resident rate, then that wouldn't be an issue, and you could just buy you could buy the monthly and quarterly pass that day. It activates immediately, and there wouldn't be an issue.
But is the requirement for the water bill, whatever, the system requirement, or is that our staff requirement?
That's what other towns do when verifying
So it's a
resident.
staff requirement.
So staff
not a
require it.
system.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you build it within Passport. I can't confirm that that's Passport's like direct, requirement. But based on what we've seen and trying to follow standards of other towns, the water bill is a way to verify residency.
I don't like that way. I'll just say it, because if my grown child is gonna work downtown and lives at our house but doesn't have their name on the water bill, it just seems like a hassle that then, what do I have to then go buy it, or how does that work?
My understanding is the water bill is not the required document. A required document is necessary to check the resident versus non-resident.
just be a
So there
license.
are other options a municipality
Okay,
can
that's
select
what
for
I was-
verification.
That's what I was gonna get at. Right.
Yeah, it could be your license
Something that doesn't
plate
make it
or,
such a
your license.
Right?
I think the crux there is, do we want to do reporting and be able to have reports that are specific to resident commuter behavior and traffic versus non-resident behavior and traffic? That's the reason why you would have a resident, non-resident rate, is for the data. So a year from now or 2 years from now, we can see our commuter data in comparison from resident to non-resident, which could advise other things. But the not seamless part of it is in the actual application to get your monthly and your quarterly requires an administrative check on our end in office.
But it could be an easier one than a water bill, potentially. So
I just
that
feel like
goes,
most of the non-residents would be daily parkers, but maybe I'm wrong.
they might be. So this actually ties into kind of our earlier discussions, if it's okay to just tie that in real quick, which is a lot of the issues we keep dealing with are around parking and traffic, which are all related to growth, right? So more businesses, more people coming to town, more traffic through the neighborhoods, more parking needed. So I think we might not need it this year, maybe not next year, but those types of studies, I think, are something that we do need to keep our eye on and prepare for, because we're gonna keep trying to solve these issues with these special, these variances and whatnot for parking, which it comes up with every time we wanna put a new business in. I'd like to take this commuter idea into consideration as well, just for parking in general. in town, because we're gonna keep butting up against this. So that for the study's sake, I'd be in favor of that.
Doing the resident versus non-resident?
Having more data.
More data.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think the resident, non-resident as proposed is a step forward on the data side. I also think it's just good to signal to residents that, you know, you have access to a lower rate. And, you know, obviously residents are paying into the village in other ways.
So is
Like I
that-
said, I wish we could do it for daily too, but it's just not feasible. So, I mean, I think of the available options, what staff is proposing is the best one. I personally, I would be okay with increasing the daily rate further, but I
Well,
understand.
Let's deal with that separately. So is everyone in favor of the resident discount? For
Yes.
the-
Yes.
Okay, so that, now, I didn't want to skip over that because I think you raised a good point. Is there, are you suggesting a increase across the board for all the daily at all the districts or just the Congress Park or?
Well, I also like the variable pricing with the $3 if you're parking in the lot behind Village Hall, right? I mean, I think you could potentially increase the $3.50 to $4.
For Congress Park and for downtown outside of the
Yes,
back lot?
which are the most premium spots and where and most people at those locations are buying the daily passes, so I think the
And you're
revenue
thinking,
would
because a dollar is more of an incentive than a 50 cents to park from there to.
I think if a commuter is paying a daily rate to park there all day long, they would be open to paying $4 or even $5.
I
Like
agree with that.
$3.50 seems
I agree.
very low for you're occupying that space
And I
all
think
day
that
long.
that also incentivizes the monthly and
Yeah.
quarterly. Could I ask though, remind me, if you buy a monthly pass, you can still park in the daily pass spaces, or no?
So that is something that we, it'll come up later on in the presentation. We do have a plan for excess parking in case there is overflow of monthly in what's designated. But the plan is to keep daily and daily, monthly and monthly, just to keep signage more clear and direct. Because with, so Passport works in two different ways. With the daily parking, there's an app on your phone. So if you were to go across different towns, you want to park in their garage, you pay the app. A monthly pass is still through Passport, but requires a web-based process, meaning that the signage that we install along Burlington, along Brookfield Avenue, would have to be different. And if we are allowing informational signage to be placed next to each other, it might confuse the public as to which one I need to scan, because there are two different processes. And now the board has supported a resident, non-resident rate for monthly and quarterly. You know, there is that time sensitivity. So for that reason, we want to keep those separate, but there is a plan to provide overflow in case that comes up. Though we've seen lower monthly rates, monthly permit purchasing at our stations, which would prevent concerns over overflow. It's your daily that has your ebbs and flows, and can really peak, especially Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Sure, so I guess one concern though then is that if we are raising the daily rates that, and thus incentivizing the monthly and quarterly, I'm concerned if there aren't enough spaces for those, then if more people start buying those because they're cheaper.
That was incorporated into the analysis.
Okay.
Although it didn't only look at dollars and comparison fee-wise, there was a deep dive into commuter stall numbers and a breakdown into daily and monthly, and how does that compare to other communities, and how did their fee schedule in comparison to the number of stalls available.
So we're comfortable that
he's
this
gonna
is gonna be
keep-
enough.
Yeah, moving through the presentation, you'll be
Okay.
able to see the visuals of those areas, and that might prompt some more questions.
But I'm just trying to get consensus on the things that is there a consensus to move the daily parking?
Well, right now, the only thing we were looking for is resident and non-resident.
Okay.
Consensus, and then he's gonna keep moving through to present further.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So now going on to our proposals. So as a refresh, this is the map of what's what current parking is available. The only difference in what we presented in December compared to January is there is a little purple rectangle on the left side of the map. That is existing drop-off pickup parking, similar to what you see on Burlington over by the downtown station. That is it's existing, but there's no signage currently right now. But that is still currently in place. Correct. So just refreshing, our proposal is to eliminate your B permit and your monthly and quarterly on the north side of Burlington, which would make that all daily. You would keep your daily lot that is currently used, the former Moose Lodge, that would stay. We would reclassify the parking that was reserved for B permit on Dubois on the west side of the street. That would go to daily, and then you would keep your monthly, quarterly in the newly improved lot just north of that. And yeah, so that would, and the reason why we're extending parking for daily all the way down Burlington is upon the development of the Moose Lodge and the surrounding properties, you need to relocate about 50 parking spaces. So that alone, the stretch of Burlington alone would take up most, if not all, of the existing parking that is held within the Moose Lodge. So that's why we are opening that space up so much. And there has not been a, based on conversations with police, there's not been an overflow issue with monthly and quarterly. So there's usually empty spaces. It's over halfway filled, but it's never at capacity. Now going on to our downtown parking. As discussed in our last meeting, the plan is to relocate employee parking on the 8900 block of Brookfield to the 8900 block of Burlington. So what we would do is, in addition, the board also endorsed at the December meeting to remove monthly and quarterly parking altogether on the 8900 block of Brookfield. The reason behind that is to support the Triangle site when that is developed. And we were looking at what KLOA provided in terms of overall traffic flow. Those amount of spaces, keep in mind 15 will have to reclassified for that variation come the completion of the development. But that would open up more parking for daily in the closest proximity to our downtown, which is Burlington. Then your monthly quarterly employee would all be merged together on Burlington with the remaining eastern portion keeping at your traditional public parking. What we would do is take parking on the 8800 block of Brookfield and reconvert that over to monthly. Convert that from monthly and quarterly to daily. Same goes west and east of the creek. You would maintain east of the ball field your monthly and quarterly parking there. So there's two spaces, one on Burlington, one on Brookfield Avenue for monthly. And additionally, I want to note that we, upon KLWA's recommendation and talking to the police department, we would increase parking limits in your traditional 2 hours to 3 hours. This would also include the 3700 block of Grand Boulevard, although it's not listed in this map because this is shown for purely commuter purposes. That is something that will be brought up in the future when we create the ordinance. So we have 3 hour parking in our downtown, which will allow for people to patronize and go watch a Bears game when they so fancy. Moving on to the Hollywood station. Currently, there is no permitted 2 hour parking, that green that you would see in the downtown. There is parking that is available after commuter hours, which you would see in the yellow parking. There is business decal parking highlighted in orange on the east side in the 8600 block of Brookfield, the 8400 block of Brookfield. So what you do instead is reconvert what was business decal into 2 hour parking, and we would keep the rest of the business signage allocation the same. We did review the parking on the 8500 block of Brookfield where Urban Mutt is. And based on the number of residential units, there is not a reason to reconvert that parking. Additionally, Urban Mutt, their current hours open shortly after the lax parking restrictions will be lifted from a monthly and quarterly parking. As some people may know, you can park monthly and quarterly permanent parking after the posted commuter hours, which will be amended for 2 hours. That will be the same here as well. Additionally, connecting back to the hours, we would amend the hours so it'd be from 5:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. on both Brookfield and Burlington. And that is all I have for my presentation. I'm more than happy to answer any additional questions.
Just one question on the last item. No issue with Metro with changing the parking, because then we have something, I mean, they control that somewhat, right? Where you have to have that open for a period of time.
They own the improvement behind Village Hall, but the land belongs to the village, and it's still maintained as.
No, I'm looking at the ones along Burlington.
That is
in Brookfield.
Village property. What we've been directed is that is not Metro's control, so we can classify
The ones
it.
along the tracks?
That's village property, yeah, and it's still maintained as monthly in course, so we're not taking away space along Brookfield, and we are allowing, we're better utilizing parking in our downtown, specifically just south of the ball field, east and west of the creek, as monthly and quarterly is very minimal in the downtown. That daily would serve as a benefit and a safety improvement as you have an existing sidewalk already. I do want to point out, it just popped into my head. Sorry.
Just confirming, we're talking about the same thing. So the angle parking that would be directly north of the tracks going from like the creek all the way down to the triangle property, that's village property.
Yeah, we verified this with the triangle site, and Adam looked into this as well. The village owns this, and we do not lease it to Metro, we don't lease it from Metro.
But there's no requirement from Metro about us allowing that for commuter parking for certain times?
I know what you're talking about, Jesse, because in the past, when there were improvements or things that we had to get.
It's actually would be BNSF, because the question was, some of this property is owned by BNSF. When I reached out to them on the triangle piece, they never got back to me, and then we looked into it, well, why didn't they? Because I was always told BNSF owns this.
Right.
They don't. We've seen the lease with Metro, and we've seen a document from BNSF that documents what they own and what they don't own, and they don't own that.
But separate from owning it, there is not an agreement that we have to leave that open to commuter parking for certain periods, if that's related to the train station or something else. I
have read documentation. What I have seen in village records is the maintenance of parking behind Village Hall and that lot that they claim to own the improvement on. That isn't changing. So based on what I've seen and based on what we've been directed by our legal staff, that we are in full compliance with what we have been discussing.
In 20-plus years, I always thought that was, I mean, this has come up several times before.
I keep hearing that.
Yeah.
And I've looked, and Adam looked at the documents that were given to us.
If they're not claiming it at this point, let's roll with it.
The issue behind Village Hall really was, and this was through the, what was that group called?
West Suburban Mass Transit.
West Suburban Mass Transit. They, for some reason, the village wanted to repave this, didn't have the money for it, so the West Transit Agency did. So that, they had some restrictions over how we could use this property. Well, they're not in existence anymore. And I think that time period that, I don't know, that was like 20 years ago, I think is over. We've looked up and down on Brookfield Avenue and in Burlington, and we aren't, we still want to And we are going to accommodate commuter parking, and we want to accommodate, this accommodates more commuter parking than we have demand for right now. But from a legal sense, there is no other requirement.
All right,
I
so,
think this is all awesome. My only still outstanding question that I don't know is about the next slide over with the proposed parking change there and putting the people that are buying monthly, quarterly way down when they are used to parking closer, but I don't remember what we talked about like how many people are monthly parkers are parking close, and I feel like it was not many.
Not
But
many.
to me, it feels like if you're giving the non-resident rate, you're getting a discount, but then you're making them park farther away from people that get the daily. That's my only, like, I wonder if you get pushback from like Brookfield stop regulars that now they have to park a lot farther and walk a lot farther.
Do you remember what the utilization was for monthly?
I had some data. I want to say there's probably at least double there's on average about 30 people who pay for parking at Village Hall for daily. I want to say we had maybe half of that in terms of monthly. We did some counting with the police department in terms of utilization, and it was, I would say, a minimum half the number of monthly and quarterly when comparing it to daily. So, yes, that is something to consider. I do want to point that it would be a safety improvement by making some daily parking closer, because otherwise you're having everyone walk. There's no path for people to walk behind Village Hall down to the station. At least along Brookfield, you have a sidewalk. And I do want to circle back. I apologize for not bringing this up earlier, but there's discussions on pedestrian safety as we move parking for daily from the lot over to Burlington. We spoke with Hancock Engineering, and currently the drive-through lane, if that's the perfect is that the terminology, each lane's width on Burlington is 11 feet. That requires a variance. The traditional requirement for a collector route is 12.
The bottom line is we can't do it.
We can't do
Just
it.
can't
There's
do
not
it.
enough room.
It's that tight.
Yeah.
To do a walk aisle, it's about 3 feet minimum, and there just is
Lanes
no,
would become too small.
there is no
Okay.
room for it.
We were talking about how if people are parking all the way down, are they just walking down Burlington in the street the whole way to get to Congress? And is there a way to have a protected walkway?
What Derek said, the better option could be, we could look into it, and maybe my suggestion is after we see development happen at Congress Park, and now we've got more parking on the north side of Burlington, we could put a sidewalk in the grass, which he thinks we have space for. It'll be more expensive, and maybe apply for a grant through Invest in Cook or STP money.
Yeah, that seems like a preferred option. Yeah,
And
but
that
obviously
would be
more expensive.
heading on Madison, heading west because of the retaining wall. East of Madison, there's no retaining wall, so that would be a little tricky. And additionally, there are, to mention, there are 2 grant opportunities, and would require potentially, although it is on village property, a potential BNSF right of entry permit, if we were to proceed with that.
Don't worry about that right now.
But
I mean, going back to that Brookfield and the monthly, are we worried about that? Wait till someone yells about it? I mean, have some of the monthly be closer? I don't know how to solve for that, but.
If the number for monthly is low, like 15, 20, you were saying, and we don't really have data to see if that's gonna change yet, but that's not a tremendous amount of spaces. Could we flip some of those, the dailies for, like, about 15 to 20 of them for the monthly? I think then we'd have those covered.
Like the ones closest to the green, like closest to the number 6. I'm not sure how many spots are there, but could those still be monthly, and then the rest of it
That's
is
what I was
blue?
thinking too, the number 6.
yeah, that's definitely
Just a
possible.
thought.
Yeah, I want to say there's less than 10 spaces in that stretch you're referring to above the number 6, but that's definitely possible. That wouldn't be, that's the current existing use, so that wouldn't be, you wouldn't change anything there, just be amendments to that stretch of parking that is just south of the ball field.
I was thinking too, that where it says 6, but the 3-hour parking,
Yes.
like, yeah, maybe bump that farther down. I mean, leave the one south, but maybe the ones that are north of the intersection, swap some of the monthly farther out for in, because, I mean, I think if you're going out for an evening, that's still not very far to walk. You're still only a couple blocks.
That's what I'm thinking,
but
like at
if
Congress
you're
Park,
running to catch a
the
train.
people buying monthly have the closest. like,
Yeah,
They're getting
paying for it.
incentivized to be able to park closest, where in here, they're parking furthest.
Yeah, you also have to, that is a valid point. The difference between the two spaces is just the amount of business density.
Sure.
There are different interests that we have to serve, whether it's Irish Times or it's the strip mall that includes Phil's. We have to assess where is that demand. And because of that, and because of what is projected to come, whether it's the theater development or it's triangle development, we have to reallocate, although we do not have a parking problem, as Kayla mentioned, in terms of Grand, it can get busy but never fill to capacity. We just want to give more room, so we can definitely keep the, where it says 6 on that blue stretch, we can make that monthly and quarterly, and we can, if the board, we can also.
Remember, it's till, like,
Till 11 a.m.,
it's
right?
only till.
11 and then
right,
opens up,
so
yeah.
It's not really gonna affect if you're going to dinner or anything like, more evening or nightlife things. Those are still gonna be open and available for.
How does everyone else feel about that? I mean, it seems, okay.
You're hearing a lot over here.
Sorry.
I'd be fine with that, the 6, making that stretch of blue near the 6 yellow seems to be the suggestion.
Okay. I'm getting enough yeses on that I think that's an appropriate.
Yeah, I will make sure so that'll stay status quo. So if you're going back to the previous, that'll just stay as it is. The only difference is making the stretch below the ballpark. That will be daily, and then your removal of monthly and quarterly altogether on the 8900 block of Brookfield.
Okay. What else? I mean, is there a consensus on all the other proposals, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think there was.
What's the consensus, what's the consensus on the higher daily rate?
That's what I was asking.
I'm fine.
But what is, I was trying to clarify, what are you asking, what are you suggesting, that Congress Park daily and downtown daily be $4? Or what?
I think
Yeah.
that's the suggestion.
What's staff's perspective on that?
So the reason why I did 350 is that was the highest rate across the board. If there is support amongst the board to make it $1 difference between parking behind Village Hall and parking on Brookfield Avenue, we can make it where Congress is $4 and we increase, so it's a 50-cent increase at Congress Park and a 50-cent increase over on downtown by Brookfield. So it's $3.50, $3 for behind Village Hall, and then $4. Or we could do a 50-cent fee across the board. I wouldn't recommend going more than $1 difference between downtown behind Village Hall and on Brookfield.
Yeah, I was suggesting just increase what's currently proposed as $3.50, increase that charge to $4, and keep the daily behind Village Hall at $3 as proposed.
Okay.
Only change the Congress Park daily because of the express and desire for that situation.
But you're also suggesting
I was saying,
downtown.
and the premium spaces downtown as well. Bump both of those to $4.
So both that are $3.50 would now be $4 is under your
Yes.
proposal.
And I think that, there's more express trains at Congress Park, but then also the downtown area that you have a lower cost parking option if you want to take advantage of that.
how does the board, Kyle's suggesting that Congress Park daily be $4. Downtown parking would remain $3 behind and $4 for the premium spaces. Correct?
Yes, that's what I'm suggesting.
I think that, I agree with that, and then we can look at it, if no one's parking there, and everyone's still parking behind, then maybe you make more monthly along Brookfield again.
You
And I
guys
think-
okay with the 50-cent increase on the premiums? Okay. All right, so let's do that.
And I did my calculation that if I drove 12 times, it'd be $48, and it'd still be cheaper than in the monthly, which is, for people that are doing 3 days a week, it's still, even at $4, is still cheaper than the monthly.
Yeah, most people will continue to buy the daily passes.
All right, is that enough direction from the board on this?
Yes.
And I'm sorry, and you told me in an email, but when would this go into effect?
So, yes, you have to create an ordinance update and work with Passport for integration. So realistically, we're thinking a spring launch. Just.
Andy, you got all this for the ordinance?
Yeah.
Just check in there.
So yeah, we expect spring, try to hopefully line up within the next quarter, just so everything launches at once, but we will update.
And there'll be the learning curve and the uproar when the change and the, but we gotta change it at some point, so we'll just, with education and everything else, we'll work our way through. We'll do social media, press release, that type of thing. We'll get it out there, so, okay? All right, Noah, thank you so much. I know everyone involved, thank you so much for all the work on that.
Yes, thank you, Noah.
Thank you.
All right, last but not least, discussion. This is a discussion concerning the status of code enforcement activities. Staff came to me and wanted to present publicly what we are doing in terms of enforcement. It's more of an informational presentation, but I'm going to turn it over to Libby right away.
Thank you. I know you guys have been looking forward to this report. But this is just to give everyone an update. There's been a lot of movement with Energize Ogden and with some of the code enforcement. So this is to bring everyone up to speed as where we're at currently. The village does have authority established in the code to inspect properties and protect against public health, safety, and communities' quality of life. Lapses in some of the inefficient enforcement does invite deterioration and blight and vacancy, which we've been kind of fighting with. We have the inspection map. On the right side is the inspection map that was created in June of 2024, and we've been very diligent and regimented in terms of following that and training our inspectors to follow that so that it is, it's transparent, it's on a regular basis, it's uniform, and it is efficient. So part of it is having this proactive inspection schedule along with complaint-based. So the complaint-based comes through us via email or call or sometimes see-click-fix. Our whole effort has been to organize effective and predictable and uniform inspections across the village as a whole. And for this, we've gotten guidance from the comprehensive plan and the Energize Ogden project. So two different times that this board and also your predecessors have spoken to what Energize Ogden should look like. We did meet with different business owners to talk about some of the changes in the phase one. So just to be clear, the village has always maintained and enforced the code, so this isn't a new initiative. We're just implementing some of the enforcement of it. The codes are enforced throughout the village as part of the map that we have. So these 9 zones that we have, it's not just for Ogden, it's across the village as a whole. The Energize Ogden specifically supports having safe, attractive, investment-ready, mixed-use properties. And we're continuing some of the code-related issues that we're running into there is inoperable and abandoned vehicles. Those have always been cited. We're just following through right now with the enforcement of that, meaning taking it to adjudication. Then we have temporary storage containers and outdoor storage, also a significant problem. On Ogden, again, following through with that, taking those to either adjudication or in some cases directly to circuit court, and then general property maintenance as a whole. So just a couple of photos 5 of what inoperable vehicles, we've gotten that question a lot. What is an inoperable vehicle? It's one that can't be driven because the license plates are expired or because it's, you know, it's inoperable in some way. So these are just some samples of recent ones that we've had since November, and we've got many more. But all of our code enforcement is supported by photographs, and our inspectors go out during the warning phase. If there is no compliance, then they'll go out again and take more photographs in preparation for adjudication. So that brings us current to where we're at right
And
now.
that's inoperable on private or public property, correct?
Correct.
They can't store inoperable vehicles on private property.
Correct. So it's not just on Ogden. We kind of went back through some of the historical records back to at least 2020 that I could find. So Brookfield has always cited for those. There wasn't always, you know, complete enforcement and follow through with it, but there's plenty of citations for inoperable vehicles across the village. So it's not any one targeted area, it's across the board, but these are some of the bigger ticket items that we're running into on a regular basis.
And that includes temporarily, what some people may call temporarily parking an inoperable vehicle in front of their business or something like this.
It's
Like,
an inoperable vehicle, yes.
whether it's for an hour or 2
Yes.
hours, they take it out during the day to make space for other vehicles inside, and then,
Correct. Correct. It does affect some of the businesses on Ogden that have the inoperable vehicles, and that's why we had the meeting with the businesses that chose to come, so we can explain that and explain some of, you know, the enforcement part of that. It does affect their operation by having the inoperable vehicles.
I thought this would be an important update if any of you are receiving direct calls or concerns from property owners on, I mean, just so you were up to date on where we're at with this, so.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Great job, Libby, thank you. Okay. Tim, how long would executive session be? Okay, all right. Okay, we do need to do, okay, that's the last item we have under regular business. Once again, I'm gonna open it up to public comment. Does anyone on this side have any public comment? Does anybody on this side have any public comment? Hearing no public comment, I'd entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Oh, wait, I gotta temporarily no, okay. Motion to go into executive session at 10:56 PM pursuant to Section 2C2 of the Open Meetings Act to discuss collective negotiating matters.
So moved. Second.
Motion is made by trustee Gahuli, second by trustee Kaluzny. Roll call, please.
Trustee Ketchmark?
Aye.
Trustee Whitehead?
Aye.
Trustee Hendricks?
Aye.
Trustee Naramatsu?
Aye.
Trustee Gahuli?
Aye.
Trustee Kaluzny?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, we're adjourned into executive session at 10:56. We're gonna do it in the boardroom. Anyone that's not participating in executive session? Thanks so much.
Shut the door.